Chapter 26. There was a shriek mixed in with Little Spirit's scolding, hence it was not possible for that shriek to belong to Little Spirit. Sima Yu looked at Little Roar, who had on the same puzzled expression, so she also ruled him out. Before she could even continue her train of thoughts, the scene around her had changed and she had already been pulled into the Spirit Pearl and Little Spirit was floating in front of her. Didn't you say that only with my thought then I can enter? How did you manage to pull me in? She asked in a disgruntled tone. Little Spirit gave her another condescending glance and said, "Those are only for the general spirit artifacts. Those stronger artifacts that are more powerful, like myself, have the ability to take the initiative." "Oh, all right then." She touched her nose and asked again, "So why did you pull me in here? What was all that screaming about?" Really an idiot. Little Spirit couldn't help but think that out of all his previous masters, Sima Yu was the most stupid one. He then thought back and tried to figure out how did their destinies get entwined together, having recognized her as a master. Sima Yu gently knocked her knuckle on his head and asked in a dissatisfied tone, "Are there spirit artifacts like you who despise their own masters? If I ever see you with this same expression on, I'm just going to throw the Spirit Pearl into fire and roast it." "I'm just speaking the truth," Little Spirit answered nonchalantly. Not a trace of fear could be found in his voice. "All right, just tell me the main reason on why you interrupted me and pulled me in here for." After saying she had an image in her mind, and with a thought, a chair appeared before her. She had already grasped how things worked in here. Her thoughts worked magically in here. Whatever she wanted, all she needed to do was to conjure up the image in her mind, and with a simple thought, it would appear. Her thoughts were akin to God's power in here. Whatever she wanted would simply manifest before her with a single thought from her. When Little Spirit saw how fast she had grasped onto how things worked here, he furrowed his brows. "Oh, stop dawdling and quickly spill the beans. Hurry up and say it." Little Roar, who was beside her, couldn't take the suspense anymore and quickly urged Little Spirit impatiently. Little Spirit still did not answer them and arrived before the dagger and poked it with his chubby hands. "Have you played enough? When are you going to drop all this pretense?" There was no movement from the dagger. "Continue on with this farce and he'll really let her polish you with this whetstone," Little Spirit threatened. This threat seemed to have worked better, and the dagger above the whetstone shook gently, trembled a couple of times, and it suddenly shot up above Little Spirit's head, and without any warning, it whacked Little Spirit's head. A tender voice sounded out, "You dare to polish this big master? This big master here will chop you up into pieces." Little Spirit's wrath was ignited, and he no longer paid any heed to Sima Yu and immediately lunged towards the dagger. Sima Yu and Little Roar watched on speechlessly at this scene in front of them, both still in shock as they watched the two fighting each other while each threw blatant threats at the same time. "This dagger can speak?" Little Roar asked in astonishment. "Do you know what's going on?" Sima Yu asked him. "Nope, no idea." Little Roar answered very simply. "Didn't you say that you were an ancient sacred spirit beast and you know everything?" She looked at him with contempt. "Oh, haha, I'm just a descendant of the ancient sacred spirit beast. I've not lived for thousands of millenniums, so how would I know? What I meant when I said I know everything was referring to my heritage. I've nothing to do with this guy here, so how would I know anything about him?" Little Roar quickly evaded her eyes, but at the same time he let out a little sigh. He had also mentioned this to her before, but now that her soul was damaged, she held no memories of the former. After watching the two for a while more, Sima Yu asked, "When are two of you going to fight till? Can someone tell me what's going on?" When the dagger heard Sima Yu's voice, it flew over immediately as it floated in front of her, and the same tender voice sounded out, "Little Yu, don't use the whetstone to polish me, K." She poked the dagger in front of her in curiosity and asked, "You're covered in such a thick layer of rust. If I don't use a whetstone to polish you, tell me how am I to use you? More importantly, you're a dagger. How can you talk? Little Spirit, come over and tell me what's happening." With her sudden change in temperament and her aggressive tone, both Little Spirit and the dagger were shocked. "It's not an ordinary artifact," Little Spirit explained. "I can see that. Quick, say the main points. Tell me, what is this thing?" Sima Yu rolled her eyes in annoyance. "I'm not a thing. I'm a supreme artifact." The dagger yelled out in defense. "Not a thing." Sima Yu was rendered speechless at the dagger's defense. At the same time, she was also surprised by what it said last. It claimed that it was a supreme artifact. "You are a supreme artifact?" "The supreme artifact is obviously me," Little Spirit retorted at once. "I am the supreme artifact. I'm more powerful than you." The dagger countered back. "I'm more powerful." Little Spirit said, "No, I am more powerful enough." both of you stop fighting, can you just explain to me what's going on? In the end, what is this thing? She had to stop their childish banter. The way things were going, if she didn't interrupt them, they might have gone on till the next day. Little Yu. I've already said that I'm not a thing. The dagger said as if being wronged, and the voice was full of grievance. I've already said I'm a supreme artifact. In the supreme artifact Ling Long, when Little Spirit heard that dagger claim itself to be S supreme artifact, he wanted to retort, but he was silenced by that deadly glare from Sima Yu. All he could do was to swallow back the words he had wanted to say. Ling Long? What weapon is that? Sima Yu asked, her curiosity piqued. It means Ling Long. Ling Long simply said, I was born from the beginning of time, when the heavens and earth were made. I was made from a piece of the divine rock Ling Long. A deity had picked me up and refined me into an artifact. Before he had picked me up, I had already formed my own awareness and had my own consciousness. When he was refining me, I was cut up into pieces, melded under high pressure and intense heat. Going through all that excruciating pain made me lose my consciousness, and when I came to, I had already become like that. Why did he make you into a dagger? A dagger's attack power isn't as good as other weapons, Sima Yu asked. This is not my original form, Ling Long said, but this is the only form I can show now. So you mean to say that you can change into other form of weapons? Sima Yu asked excitedly. Of course. Since I'm a supreme artifact, I sure have a great ability. Ling Long's voice became proud and continued on. I can change into any weapons, spear, saber, sword, whatever you want me to turn into, I can do it. Well, other than this rolling bead in front of me, that is, as long as it's a weapon, I can turn into it. This shows that you are still not as good as me. Humph. Little Spirit stuck out his chest and boasted. Sima Yu looked at the dagger with sparkling eyes and asked, can you change into another weapon for me to have a look? This transformation is controlled by my master. Little Yu, I like you very much. I'll acknowledge you to be my master. Acknowledge me to be a master? This weapon also needs to establish a link? Sima Yu asked, what an idiot. Without establishing a link, tell me if you were able to enter the Spirit Pearl? Little Spirit retorted. Sima Yu stared at Little Spirit and frowned. This kid had been recently scolding her a lot, calling her stupid this and that. Since when was she stupid? She was just very unfamiliar with this world. Giggle, the dagger explained patiently, in this world, spirit artifacts need to establish a link with their masters. This link will also play an important part in drawing out the powers of the spirit artifacts. The closer the bond, the more powerful the spirit artifact. Oh, so it's like this. I didn't know that. All right then, let's establish a link and get this acknowledgement thing going. Sima Yu clapped her hands in excitement. Chapter 27. Sima Yu thought of the previous time she recognized Little Spirit as her master. It seemed as if it was something that needed her own blood. Therefore, she placed her own finger upon the dagger and, before she made any action, Ling Long gave her a cut. In a flash, the fresh blood moistened the dagger. You look so old and rusty. I never thought that you would still be so sharp, Sima Yu said. She wanted to retrieve her hand, but she realized that her hand was completely unable to leave Ling Long's body. The situation was exactly the same as the previous circumstance as Little Spirit, Yu. Little Roar saw Sima Yu faint and quickly flew over. Don't worry, she just lost too much blood. She won't die, Little Spirit said. After Ling Long sucked enough blood, it immediately lay down beside Sima Yu and belched satisfactorily. The rust on the dagger started to completely fall off. The entire dagger was so clean that you could use it as a mirror, and the edge of the dagger started to give off a cold ray of light. With one glance, one could tell that it was incomparably sharp. Not only that, but after the rust completely fell off, in a split second, the dagger turned transparent. Little Roar and Little Spirit only saw that, inside the blade, Sima Yu's blood was churning chaotically. As such, every single part of the blade was covered with bloodstains. At the same time, a beam of red light shot towards the heavens, and the inside of the entire Spirit Pearl was engulfed in red. It was lucky that this was the inside of the Spirit Pearl. If it were outside instead, this movement would have undoubtedly drawn more than a little amount of trouble. Little Spirit and Little Roar were blinded by the red light and could not open their eyes. After waiting for the red light to disperse, they opened their eyes and saw a small child sitting on Sima Yu's body, smiling happily. That baby's voice was small and was really similar to a little doll. A small child? Little Roar and Little Spirit were both shocked. Dumb. You, how can you be so small? Little Spirit pointed at Ling Long. Furthermore, you're even a female. Although this Ling Long had already been wasting away inside the spirit pearl for tens of millions of years, it had always been in the form of a dagger. It completely never crossed his mind that this Ling Long would be a female child. Why can I not turn into a small child? Aren't you one yourself, umph? Ling Long turned her back on little spirit. Looking at Sima Yuyu's pale appearance, she asked, "When will master wake up?" "My dear little sister." Little Roar flew in front of Ling Long and said, "Little sister, Ling Long should not worry. You will wake up very soon." "Little sister, your ass." Ling Long turned her body over and stepped on Little Roar's face and said, "When Big Sis was formed, you were still in some unknown corner of the universe and were not even reincarnated. You still dare to call me little sister? If you want to call me anything, you should call me Big Sis Ling Long." Although Little Roar's face was soon going to be stepped into a meat pancake, he stretched out a small claw to pat Ling Long's leg and said fawningly, "Does Big Sis Ling Long's leg hurt? Do you need me to help you blow on it? You are so soft and tender, how could you hurt me?" One sentence of Big Sis Ling Long had satisfied Ling Long. This little beast was quite cute, after which she flew back to Sima Yuyu's body and sat down, with her little hand holding her chin. Her face was full of worry as she looked at the Sima Yuyu who wouldn't wake up. It appeared that Little Roar was able to notice that Ling Long was really someone who had a fiery temperament. If she was dissatisfied with you for a single moment, she would definitely shout to beat and kill you. It was no wonder that people like Little Spirit were unable to handle her and would quarrel with her for so many years. Despite that, she seemed to like Sima Yuyu even before they recognized their master. It was clear to see, but why? It was not only Little Roar who was unable to figure this out, but neither could Little Spirit. He and Ling Long had been together for so many years, watching her look for a master over and over again, being filled with regret and returning over and over again, and finally, simply being too lazy to continue searching, they wasted away inside the spirit pearl for someone who was so fussy about their master. Why would she look upon Sima Yuyu with such favor when Sima Yuyu had only recently become a spirit master? Little Spirit unknowingly asked this question out loud. Ling Long smiled and said, "Because she understands me, but for someone like you whose nature is so aggressive, don't you only like people who are strong?" "She has only just started practicing," said Little Spirit. "She will become strong," Ling Long said confidently. After saying this, she stretched forth her short hand and gently prodded Sima Yuyu's face. Sima Yuyu, once again, saw these scenes that she had not seen for such a long time. The raging fire which burnt the beautiful mansion to ashes. This was not the apartment building that belonged to her world. It was a beautiful, old and antique building. The nameplate Shiman Mansion hung upon the front door. The flames quickly rushed up and immediately engulfed the majestic door, watching the entire mansion burn down in flames. Sima Yuyu's heart felt as if it was pierced with a countless number of knives. A silhouette appeared amidst the flames and faced her while laughing heartily. "Shiman Yuyu, look at your home. It's turned into a pile of ashes. Ha ha, what qualifications do you still have to fight with me?" Sima Yuyu could not see her face clearly, but she could remember that voice. That voice was incomparably sharp and it pierced straight through her heart. Why did she have this kind of dream again? Was this what Little Roar talked about, her forgotten past? But she remembered that in her previous life on this earth, she was killed by an explosion at the hands of her company's second in command, unless you're saying after she had died on the earth, she had passed through this world and lived another life, becoming Shiman Yuyu, receiving Little Roar, after which having her entire family and herself assassinated. The reason was completely unknown. When she had reincarnated for the second time, she became this obsessive love-struck miss. Furthermore, like Little Roar said, when she had died previously, her spirit had received a trauma. That was why she had forgotten memories from the middle part of her life also. Little Roar had confirmed that she had forgotten those memories and that it was not a delusion but an undeniable fact. "Yuyu, if you can possibly survive, you definitely should not take revenge for us. What we want to see the most is you living a good life." A warm voice sounded from the midst of the sea of flames. However, listening to this voice, Sima Yuyu's heart began to hurt even more and could not hold herself back from shouting out, "Mother!" With just one call of "mother," it immediately caused her pair of dry eyes to turn moist and unstoppable tears fell unceasingly. It appeared that she had seen a beautiful face lightly pasted upon her own face, which said while smiling, "Look, this is our daughter. She really looks like you. She resembles the moon in the sky. Then we should call her Yuyu." A male voice sounded. "All right, silly girl, in the future you will be called Shiman Yuyu. I'm your mother. Your first word definitely needs to be mother." Sima Yu stretched out her hand. She wanted to touch that beautiful face. However, before she managed to touch her, that silhouette disappeared into the fire. Mother Ling Long sat on Sima Yu's chest, looking at the tears that fell from her eyes. She said with her heart aching, "Little Yu, why are you crying?" Little Yu is really sad. Her heart is hurting. Ling Long also wants to cry. Sob sob. Little Roar and Little Spirit also felt the pain in Sima Yu's heart. Little Spirit did not know why. But Little Long guessed that she definitely saw some memories that happened in her past. Little Yu, don't cry anymore. We will be here with you. Ling Long crawled on the top of Sima Yu's head. She stretched forth her hand and wiped away the tears that were in the corner of Sima Yu's eyes. When Sima Yu gently opened her eyes, the tears blurred her vision. Looking at the silhouette in front of her eyes that had, seemingly, not disappeared, she said softly, "Mother, Air really misses you." Chapter 28. Little Yu, you've finally awoken, Ling Long said happily as she saw Sima Yu open her eyes. Sima Yu stretched out her hand and wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. She turned her head and looked at the little child beside her and said hesitatingly, "Ling Long? Ha! Little Yu recognizes me." Ling Long chirped happily as she clapped her hands. "How have you turned into a child? And such a small one at that?" Sima Yu sat up and cupped Ling Long into her hands. She realized that she was merely around the size of 2 fists, of course. "I am a soul weapon. I'm quite similar to Little Spirit. Of course I'd be able to transform into a human," Ling Long said, while laughing happily. "However, I'm more powerful than that guy. I'm able to completely transform into one, but he's unable to. He can only waste away inside the spirit pearl, so looking at just this one point, the one who is the most senior supreme artifact is me. Alright, both of you are very powerful." Sima Yu quickly pacified the situation when she saw that Little Spirit was about to explode. "Oh right, what did Little Yu dream of just now?" "We immediately felt your pain, and it also hurt me greatly," Ling Long asked. "Nothing much, it was just a few old memories," Sima Yu said. "Perhaps it's because I can now cultivate, so my memories are slowly coming back to me." Looking at how Sima Yu was reluctant to divulge any information, nobody asked any further. Sima Yu stood up. Looking at how she was still at the place that she fainted at earlier, the corner of her mouth arched and said, "Couldn't you all have let me lie down on a bed or something? At least it would have been more comfortable." "Too lazy to change location," Little Spirit said in a forceful and just manner. In a flash, he disappeared. "I'm also too lazy to bicker with you any further. If not, you'll anger me to death." Sima Yu did not look at Little Spirit and looked at Ling Long, who was in her hands, and asked, "What kind of weapons can you turn into right now?" "I also have no idea." Ling Long shook her head as she said. "Then let's try," Sima Yu said. "Alright." After saying this, Ling Long turned into a dagger and said, "Master, let's begin." Sima Yu thought of a few different types of weapons in her head. Aside from the initial double-edged sword, none of the rest succeeded. After a while, Sima Yu helplessly looked at the pot in her hands and bellowed with laughter, "Ha ha ha! What kind of supreme artifact are you? Did you turn into a pot because you planned to help us cook some food?" This time was a mistake. After saying this, Ling Long left Sima Yu's hands and started to spin in midair. When it stopped spinning, the pot was missing and a spatula that was used to stir-fry vegetables appeared in front of everyone. Sima Yu's initial hopefulness turned to disappointment. While looking at the spatula, the disappointment had turned into despair. It turns out that she had chanced upon another fraud item. It had said that it was so powerful, but in the end, the result was too beautiful. She could no longer bear to look at it. Looking at Sima Yu's expression, Ling Long turned into the dagger and said, "Little Yu, don't be disappointed. Although I can turn into many things right now, it's also dependent on your own ability. The stronger you become, the more powerful a weapon I can turn into as well." This was basically saying her current strength was only able to turn it into cooking utensils. Sima Yu could feel the disappointment in Ling Long's words, and picked it up and said, "I will enable you to turn into extremely powerful weapons. In any case, I am unable to use these weapons right now. When I increase in strength, we will become stronger together. I believe in you, Little Yu." Ling Long said confidently, "Me too. I also want to become stronger together." Little Roar came over and said. Ling Long turned into a small child and stepped on Little Roar's face. Roaring, Little you and I are mutually encouraging each other right now. What did you run over for? Sima Yu looked at the fiery little lady, whose temperament had changed in a split second for a moment. She was unable to figure out which one was the true Ling Long. Since the time that the spirit pearl had come out, it was now already sunset. It was lucky that they had no classes in the afternoon, or she would have been caught in the act by the scoundrel Feng Zhixing. Thinking about Feng Zhixing, she thought about little spirit's reminder. Did he really know that she could cultivate? Then why did he not expose her at that point? He obviously knew that she was a wastrel, but he willingly accepted her into his class. Was it really because he was doing it on account of the principal and her grandfather? If he really had any motives towards her, she did not sense any malicious intent from him. Unless you're saying that he had concealed it so deeply. Furthermore, she had been sensitive towards people ever since she was born. Feelings like maliciousness or kindness were very obvious to her. She had never mistaken these things before, so much so that because of this, when she had carried out multiple missions with people from her organization before, she had managed to kill someone in revenge even. During their betrayal, as a result, she could feel that Feng Zhixing held no malicious intentions towards her. Also, right now in the principal's office, Feng Zhixing, who had just returned from outside, was called over. Are you aware of the situation regarding your class of students? The old principal looked at Feng Zhixing and asked, Are you talking about the challenge? I've heard about it, Feng Zhixing replied indifferently. What do you think about it? The old principal asked. Don't have any opinions, as long as she doesn't play their lives. Anything goes. Feng Zhixing leaned on the chair and fiddled with his fingernail, he said. Furthermore, in the competition, they are responsible for their own life and death. If any situation occurs, their two families won't be able to pin this on me. The old principal almost choked when he heard Feng Zhixing's words and said, I'm asking about the situation where Sima Yu triumphed over Meng Ting. So, what if she's won over Meng Ting? Feng Zhixing said, This is not anything strange. That Meng Ting only closes the door and studies at home while Sima Yu constantly gets into fights in the city. I think that it's due to his vast combat experience that he won. When the old principal heard about how Sima Yu had triumphed over Meng Ting, he actually thought about whether or not he could have possibly been able to cultivate. If not, why would this scoundrel with such foresight accept a wastrel? However, listening to his explanation now, it was not like it was not a reasonable explanation. After all, during their fight, Sima Yu had really not used any spirit power. Feng Zhixing saw the way the old principal's eyes darted around sneakily and guessed what he was thinking in his heart. However, he did not plan to say anything. Do you still have anything else? If not, I will make my move first. I have to bring them to choose a spirit beast egg tomorrow and have to go back to prepare a bit. Yup. Choosing a spirit beast egg is a very important event for the students. You need to prepare properly. Have the spirit beast eggs all been replenished? The old principal asked. They all arrived today. I expect that they've all been sent inside already, Feng Zhixing replied. Then you should go and prepare. The old principal said, Remember to take note not to allow them into the house with the dead egg. If not, they would have wasted a chance unnecessarily. Since it's a dead egg, why don't you dispose of it? Feng Zhixing asked puzzledly. That was something that was passed down a very long time ago. Our custom in this school is not to touch that egg. I am also unaware of the reason why. However, there were many times in the past where a student who entered that house would always be very confused upon his return. As such, we thought that, despite it being a dead egg, it was still a rather unique place, so we left it as it was. I understand, Feng Zhixing said, and left. At night, when He Chouji was walking around in the campus, a group of people blocked her path. Are you guys going to choose eggs tomorrow? That person asked. Yes, He Chouji replied. Very good. Help me with one thing. I will reward you well. That person said with a smile. What thing? You should let me listen to first. Help me eliminate Sima Yu. That person said. Meng Ting has the support of her Meng family. What powers do you have to protect you? If she finds out that you've instigated Meng Ting into challenging her, ill do it. He Kaji answered nervously and thought about it for a while and asked, How do you want me to do it? Chapter 29. Whenever Sima Yu wasn't in a good mood, she liked to eat. And eat. Hence tonight, the table was full of various dishes. Fatty Chu didn't need anyone to call him over. He had followed the waft of fragrant food trail and ran over himself. Very soon. Wei Ziqi had also ran over on his own. Have a look and see if Bei Gong Tang and Ouyang Fei are in. If they are, ask them to join us. Sima Yu, who was still cooking at the side, shouted over to Fatty Chu. All right. Fatty Chu stole a mouthful of food before he headed off. Wei Ziqi originally thought that even if Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei were in, they wouldn't come. To his surprise, both of them had appeared in front of the table. Both of you actually turned up. What a miracle! Bei Gongtang shot a glance at Wei Ziqi before washing her hands and sitting down by the table. She didn't utter a single word as she sat quietly and waited for everyone. Ouyang Fei looked at Wei Ziqi and said, Fatty Chu said that the food here was more delicious than the school's canteen. Sima Yu started plating the other dishes up and placed them on the table. By this time, Little Roar had already finished eating and had went outside for a walk. Since we all live in the same courtyard, we should interact more with each other, see? Having a meal together is very nice as well, Fatty Chu said. Can you cook? Bei Gongtang asked coldly. No. Fatty O answered very seriously, but he turned and laughed out loud. Don't we have Yu with us? Sima Yu looked at him coldly but didn't object. Tomorrow is day of the Spirit Beast Egg Selection. Ouyang Fei interjected. Spirit Beast Egg Selection? What's that? Hearing this for the time, Sima Yu asked. Spirit Masters can contract their own spirit beasts. You should know this as well. Fatty Chu said. She nodded. In general, Spirit Masters and Spirit Beasts contracts have their limitations. The stronger the Spirit Master, the more Spirit Beasts they can contract with. Students like us who have just initially stepped into the world of Spirit Masters are only able to establish a contract with one Spirit Beast. However, with a Spirit Beast egg, it's a totally different story. Some students don't have distinguished family backgrounds and have never contracted any Spirit Beasts prior to this, so upon selecting a Spirit Beast egg during the selection, they are able to choose their own Spirit Beast to establish a contract with. However, for those students who already have a Spirit Beast contract with a Spirit Beast egg, it doesn't take too much spiritual energy, and they can also establish another contract. Wei Ziqi patiently explained. Sima Yu nodded yet again with an enlightened expression. So it's a gift from the academy to the students. You can put it that way too. But you still have to pay attention to certain aspects of the Spirit Beast egg selection. Pay attention to certain aspects? The Spirit Beast eggs also have their own grades. They have high and low-level grades, although the odds are relatively low. But if you are able to select a high-level grade egg in the future, when it's out, you'll be contracted to a stronger and more powerful Spirit Beast. Sima Yu bit on her chopsticks and asked, why are they all in eggs? What about those mammals? Those mammals are also kept in the Spirit Beast eggs. It's just that the eggs are illusionary. Wei Ziqi added. I've heard that these spirit eggs are from a very mystical place. No matter what animal it is, you can only see an egg. Furthermore, all the eggs have exactly the same appearance. If the egg you chose has a mammal in it, the egg will disappear. That has got to be some trick behind it, or else why do all the eggs look exactly the same? What is the reason behind it? Sima Yu asked as she began analyzing. When Bei Gongtang heard this, she looked up at her. Anyway, tomorrow is a day worth looking forward to, Fatty Chu said. You should already have one Spirit Beast contracted before this. What are you still looking forward to? Sima Yu chided. That is not the same. I heard that there are some Spirit Beast eggs with divine ranked Spirit Beast lineage mixed in. If I were to select one, next time wouldn't I be very powerful? Ha 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 ha. Fatty Chu puffed his chest up as he said in anticipation. Stop daydreaming, Sima Yu retorted. Even if you did not choose one from a divine Spirit Beast lineage, no matter what, as long as it's chosen by the academy, there's a chance that it's more rare and powerful. Really so? Now I'm really excited for tomorrow. Ha ha. The next day, Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei also joined in for breakfast. Fortunately, all the food preparation had been done by Little Spirit, so all she needed to do was to cook. After breakfast, they headed to the classroom. Once she stepped in, Sima Yu could feel that everyone's gaze were fixed on her. There were various emotions mixed in, those of disdain, surprise, curiosity, and anger. It seems that winning the challenge yesterday's had set off a small storm. Meng Ting was still seething in anger, but she had no choice and could only leave her alone and throw her dagger stares at best. Sima Yu and Bei Gongtang both walked to their seats and sat down, totally ignoring the people around. Bei Gongtang was just distant and cold. As for Sima Yu, she was simply too lazy to bother about these matters. Soon, Feng Zhixing came into the classroom and saw that everyone was in class. You all know what day it is today. Before we head off, just want to brief you on some Things to note: the place where the spirit beast eggs are stored at one of the mountains behind the academy. There are a total of 4 doors and you can go into 3 of them. When you enter them, there will be an illusion and you will see many spirit beast eggs. Each of them look exactly the same, so you can only use your own instinct and sense to choose that one egg for yourself. Select the one that you want most, and once you've chosen it, you will be sent out. Now, follow me and we'll head over. For the spirit beast egg selection, the students started chattering excitedly and followed him out. When Sima Yuyu walked past He Chioji, he stared at her with a gaze full of menace. When she turned her head, he swiftly retracted the gaze and acted as if nothing happened. Feng Xixing led them towards the mountain, and when they arrived, the other classes had already gathered and the other teachers were chatting away leisurely together. Sima Yuyu noticed that the gazes from those teachers were filled with respect when they looked over at Feng Xixing. Is everyone here? Feng Xixing walked over to the group of teachers and asked. Yes, everyone had assembled earlier. Your class is the last to arrive, one teacher answered. Let's go in then. Feng Xixing simply ignored that teacher's snide remarks. This year, the number of spirit masters that were enrolled were not that many. There were only about 1,000 students. Other than the special class, there was also the unique class of the beast tamers and alchemists. The ordinary class had around 900 students. The entrances to the caves were relatively narrow, hence, the students were split into 3 groups and entered in batches. The students felt that if they entered at the end, it wouldn't be fair to them as the better eggs would have already been chosen. A teacher raised his hands up and the incessant clamoring hushed up at once, and he spoke out. The spirit beast eggs placed inside are all randomly placed, so the rate for success is also split up. It doesn't matter which order you enter in. Come. First batch to enter now. In accordance with the order of arrival, the students all went into their assigned batch, as Feng Xixing's group was the last to arrive. They went in as the last batch. As soon as Sima Yuyu arrived at this mountain, she had a faint feeling that something was calling her. She felt drawn to a gentle voice that said, "Come, come here." She looked around and did not find anything unusual, and she tried to listen out for that voice again, but she heard nothing. That's strange, she muttered in her heart. It was finally her team's turn, and she pushed it to the back of her mind as she followed her team to enter the cave. Chapter 30. The entrance to the cave was very narrow, however. After entering it, the cave was wide enough to have 300 to 400 people standing comfortably inside. Sima Yuyu had already experienced this with the book pavilion, hence she wasn't too surprised. However, there were others around her who had experienced this for the first time, and there were shouts of surprise erupting from the crowd every now and then. As excited chattering filled the cave, she looked around, looking out for the 3 doors that Feng Xixing had mentioned earlier. However, all she saw was actually a few white rings of light that were faintly emitted from the ground. Everyone, quiet now. A teacher hollered out and his voice echoed throughout the cave, and everyone immediately hushed. Teacher, we don't see any doors? A student asked. These rings of light are the teleportation arrays that are also the doorways that will bring you to the location of the spirit beast eggs. Remember, once you've selected a spirit beast egg, you'll immediately be sent out. There is no second chance, so you must grasp hold of your own opportunity and not waste this chance and choose the one you want the most. Another teacher added, you can only go through these 3 teleportation arrays. You cannot go to the 4th. Whoever goes to the 4th will be responsible for their own actions. If you encounter any problems, it's going to be your own responsibility. The first teacher stressed on this point. Teacher, is every teleportation array the same? They are all the same. They will randomly send you to the location for your spirit beast egg selection. Alright, spread out now. Don't crowd around and choose which array you want to enter from. After the teacher finished, everyone rushed forward to the arrays. Although the teachers had explained beforehand that everything was random and chances were all similar, they still felt that entering faster would still be a key factor in securing the best spirit beast egg soon. Some students had already disappeared upon activating the teleportation array. When the other students saw this, they got more excited, and soon everyone was rushing forward in a frenzy. Sima Yuyu was also forced to move forward, and she was shoved and nudged and soon found herself close to the innermost array. This was also the 4th teleportation array, which the teachers have repeatedly stressed that no one was to go to. Everyone also felt that there were no spirit beast eggs inside, so they also did not go near it. That teleportation was not lit up and had been closed. However, when Sima Yuyu gave a casual glance at it, she thought she saw 2 faint flashes of light. Come, come. Sima Yuyu heard that voice calling again, and she froze. At this moment, She felt someone push her from behind, and before she knew it, she was already standing above the fourth teleportation array. At this time, the teleportation array emitted a dazzling red light. Sima Yu quickly turned her body around, and she was surprised to see He Qiuji looking at her with eyes filled with hatred and grinning maliciously. Before she had the chance to say anything else, she disappeared into the red light. One of the teachers who was nearby was shocked when he saw a red light flash, and he shouted out in a panic, Who was it that entered the fourth teleportation array? There were only around half the initial number of students who had yet to enter the teleportation array, and they looked at each other with a puzzled expression on, wondering what was wrong with the teacher. Teacher, I think it was Sima Yu from the elite class that entered it. Someone said, Sima Yu? Oh, all right, continue on, said the teacher, since it was that waste. Then there was nothing to worry about. In order to prevent a similar occurrence, all the students began to enter the teleportation array in an orderly manner. Feng Zhixing had been outside the cave all this while, but when he saw the flash of red light, he had a bad premonition. He entered the cave and immediately asked, Who was it that activated the fourth teleportation array? It's your student, Sima Yu. One of the teachers answered. Most probably, he was squeezed over during the chaos just now. What? Feng Zhixing's heart missed 2 beats, asked. Isn't inside Master Feng. Once that student enters and realizes that there are no spirit beast eggs, he will come out very soon. There's no need to be so anxious. Anyway, there's nothing you can do at this point. No need to be so worried. Yes, although the academy hasn't opened the fourth teleportation array, it shouldn't have any problems. No problems? How can it be? Yesterday, the old principal had told him that the students who had entered before came back all delirious and meridians were destroyed. Their whole future ended just like that. You call this no problem? In fact, the old principal didn't mention that some of those students who had entered had never made it out. Master Feng, you are a new teacher, so you do not understand this. We have been here for so many years. These matters were most clear about it. There's absolutely no problems. Another teacher added. Those stories about those students that entered before were just rumors. Your student will be fine. No, I have to go in. All the comforting words the other teachers gave him were simply brushed off as he rushed straight to the fourth teleportation array. However, no matter how much spiritual chi he put in, the teleportation didn't activate. There wasn't the slightest reaction from the array. By this time, almost all the students had entered the 3 teleportation arrays. When the teachers saw Feng Zhixing rush to the fourth teleportation array, they were all shocked silly, but calmed down once they saw that it didn't activate. Master Feng, this teleportation array is very mysterious. Not everyone can use it. You're better off just waiting here. He stepped out and looked at the teleportation array for a moment more before turning back, and he headed straight to the principal's office. Although this teleportation array looked similar to the others, if one looked at it carefully, there were some differences. Maybe the principal had a way on entering it. However, the principal's answer shattered all his hope. That teleportation array has been there since the beginning of our Imperial Academy. It was initially a forbidden area that was cordoned off. Only after they started with the Spirit Beast egg selections, only then were the 3 other teleportation arrays added in. That particular teleportation array only activates when it recognizes that person. What do you mean? I myself do not know. These were all handed down from my predecessors. There were no other explanations, other than the dead egg. There are other things in there, which is why the students that have entered before all came back that way. The principal sighed. Is there no other way to enter? Feng Zhixing slammed both his fists down on the table as he asked anxiously. The principal could only shake his head helplessly. When he saw this, Feng Zhixing fell back to his chair and slumped back in stupor. The principal was perplexed as he looked at Feng Zhixing's reaction. Since when did this guy ever show such an expression? His impression of Feng Zhixing was that he was cold, detached, and had no emotions like a normal person. I will wait there, after which, he turned and left. When he went back, many students had already selected their spirit beast eggs and were excitedly holding onto their eggs. He fixated his eyes worriedly over the fourth teleportation array and kept repeating to himself, You have to come out safely. Sima Yu felt her surroundings disappear and felt light-headed and her mind go blank. Before she could gather her thoughts, she felt her body land softly on the ground. Damn it. She got up and dusted herself as she surveyed her surroundings. Luckily, she had landed on a thick bed of leaves that cushioned her fall. Damn it, dare to scheme against me. Humph. You better not let me find you or else. She swore in the air angrily. She swept away all the grass and leaves that were stuck on her and looked around the thick foliage that surrounded her. Didn't they say that they would be sent to select the spirit beast eggs? Why had she appeared in a forest instead? Chapter 31. Sima Yuyu took a good look around to see where she was. All she could see was an impenetrable wall of bamboo seemingly reaching the skies. Each shoot of bamboo appeared to radiate a faint green glow, and the ground was covered by a thick layer of dead leaves. How did she end up in this bamboo forest? She came before a bamboo stem and stretched out her hand to touch it. A brisk chill lingered upon her fingertips, as if the thing that she had touched was a giant ice cube, so cold. She felt as if her fingers had been frozen to the point where she could no longer feel them, and immediately retracted her hand. She wandered about in a circle and realized that this forest was ridiculously huge. She had already walked about for a good half-hour, but she was still lost within the bamboo forest. What the heck is this place? Don't tell me it's a fantasy world, or else why would these bamboos and rocks feel so realistic? She sat her butt down on a piece of rock and started to pound on her weary legs. This body is also too weak. I've only walked about for a little while, but it's already so tired. It's just too different from my previous life. If I ever have to battle anyone in the future, this would definitely be too disadvantageous. It looks like I'll have to exercise more in the future. After resting for a little while, she continued to meander around the forest. She hadn't even caught a glimpse of a single living thing, much less a spirit beast egg. Damn. What kind of godforsaken place is this? Didn't they say that you just had to find a spirit beast egg and leave? But this place doesn't even have a single egg. How am I supposed to look for it? Sima Yuyu kicked a bamboo leaf that was sticking out that she was facing. Who would have thought that there was something under the leaf, and it tumbled and rolled to her feet? A human skull. Looking closely at the white skull that had flew out in front, Sima Yuyu immediately burst forth with killing intent. She had only realized at this point that the place in which she was standing had a few footprints. She lowered her head to take a look. Because she had just exerted a bit of force, she had kicked away quite a number of leaves that were under her. Aside from the skull, which was recently kicked aside, there were still numerous bones scattered around her. She retreated backwards by a couple of steps and stepped down from atop the skeleton. The leaves had all been scattered, clearly revealing the entirety of skeleton. The skeleton has no signs of scarring. It looks as if this person had not encountered any external danger prior to his death. Scrutinizing it once more, she thought about how she had already circled more than halfway around the entire forest. She asked in confusion, could it be that this person died of starvation or dehydration? Master, this is an array, Little Spirit's voice answered in reply. An array? I think that someone had mentioned that this place contained an illusion array, and it makes everything look the same in order to let everyone see everything in front of them as the spirit beast eggs. Sima Yuyu said, the one you're talking about is an illusion array. This array is not an illusion array, it's actually a mystical array, Little Spirit said. A mystical array? What kind of array is that? Asked Sima Yuyu. It's an array that causes people to lose their way, explained Little Spirit. The reason that you got lost is also because of this mystical array. This caused you to become increasingly anxious. You couldn't even hear me, although I had called out to you a few times just now. You called out to me just now? Since I could not hear anything just moments ago, how come I can hear it now? Could it be that the array was broken? Sima Yuyu thought about how she had indeed felt increasingly muddled just now. That was nothing like her usual calm, and she suddenly felt a wave of the aftershock. You just happened to kick a skull. That managed to jolt your consciousness, that stimulated your brain for a moment, which allowed me to take advantage of the opportunity to butt in. Little Spirit said, this array is really scary. Why would the Academy erect this kind of array? Sima Yuyu asked in bewilderment. This is not the right time for you to be thinking about this. If you wish to live, you need to think of a way to dispel this array, or you will have to stay here forever with no means of getting out, Little Spirit roared. This must be the reason why that person had been trapped here until he died, Sima Yuyu said. Little Spirit, since you know about this array, are you able to dispel it? And not an array master, how would I know how to dispel it? Said Little Spirit. If you're not an array master, how would you know about the mystical array? Asked Sima Yuyu. Does everyone who knows how to eat know how to cook? Little Spirit said in disdain. Even if you've never eaten pork, you've seen a pig run. You don't know how to dispel the array, and neither do I. What now? Coleslaw 1. Yuyu, I know what to do? Little Roar interrupted. Sima Yuyu reacted to Little Roar's shout and asked, what? In the past, you had a brother who was a super powerful array master. I once heard him mention that this type of array could be broken in two circumstances. One way was by following a specific method, the other was by going completely against it. Following it? Against it? Yes, following it requires you to be aware of the array's motion pattern and undoing it step by step. This method doesn't dispel the array, and the people inside the array will also get hurt. Little Roar said, "This method is impossible. We don't even know the array. Tell us about the next method." Sima Yu said, "The method that goes against is a very simple one." Little Roar said, "Your brother once said that every array has a core. As long as we can locate that core and take it away, we will be able to dispel the array. This solution is simple." Sima Yu started to look around in all directions in order to locate the core of this array. "I haven't finished talking." Little Roar snapped, "Although this method of going against it is simple, once you destroy the core, the entire array will collapse. Every array collapses in a different way, some shatter like ice, without causing any harm to the people in the array. But there are those that explode like a bomb, wounding or even killing the people inside. It really depends on how the owner has set up the array." "What the hell, that's so dangerous." Sima Yu uttered in despair, "That's right, so a majority of the people won't choose the second option." Little Roar explained. Sima Yu pondered over it for a moment and said, "There's nothing I can do even if it's really going to explode. I don't know how to execute the method of following it and only know how to go against. There's still a possibility of survival if I take the method that goes against it. If I don't understand it, then there's only the option of death. It seems that way. We should go out together and search for that core." Little Roar flew towards Sima Yu's head and lay down, using his big round eyes to search everywhere diligently. "To begin with, the core is already not easy to locate. Furthermore, this array is so big. If we want to locate its core, it's worse than looking for a needle in a haystack. It's not even as easy as that." Little Spirit lamented, "We still have to look for it." Sima Yu shrugged, "This is the only option we have right now anyway. We have some food and drinks, so we won't die even if we can't leave this place. What we have now is time, and we can use it up slowly." Little Spirit remained silent while Sima Yu and Little Roar continued to look for the array core together. When she was hungry, she went inside the Spirit Pearl to cook. When she was thirsty, she went into the Spirit Pearl to get some water to drink. When she was sleepy, she also went inside the Spirit Pearl to sleep. Actually, she had decided to sleep inside the forest. But Little Spirit said that one's consciousness would be weaker after they had fallen asleep. If she once again became muddled as a result of the array, it was uncertain whether or not she would be able to awake from it once again. She did not know how long she had spent walking around in the forest since it was always dark inside, except for that bit of green luminescence. Although the sky did not darken, she had already eaten 7 meals and slept an entire sleep cycle, so 2 or 3 days should have passed already. It is impossible to discern where this array core is located. They were completely unable to locate the array core, and Little Roar's entire person looked as if he was in despair. As he climbed to the top of Sima Yu's shoulder, "We will find it eventually." Sima Yu was also a bit discouraged. Aside from bamboo, this forest only had bamboo. Furthermore, during their search, they had even uncovered 2 more skeletons. Continuing this blind search is also not a good method. She halted her steps and said, "Since it is a core, it definitely has to have some kind of law it has to follow, or some unique characteristic. Let us first examine at this carefully before continuing." After saying this, she sat down atop a piece of large rock, scrutinizing the bamboo and fallen leaves on the ground. What a nonsensical reply. Chapter 32. Little Roar had originally intended to say something. However, looking at Sima Yu's intense dedication, the words that were on the tip of his tongue were forced back down. He decided to involve himself in looking around the surroundings to see if there was anything that resembled the array core. "This place is really too weird. There isn't even any sun. Where is this light even coming from?" Little Roar inquired as he stood alone on top of a stick of bamboo and looked at how the light that was coming off the bamboo turned his pure white fur green. "Light?" Sima Yu heard what Little Roar had said, "A miraculous radiation of light." These bamboos were freely giving off light. This meant that these bamboo were one and the same. If they could find a bamboo that did not give off any light, it was possible that that bamboo was actually the array core. "Ha, Little Roar, let's look for a bamboo that doesn't give off light," she said, facing Little Roar, who was behind her, as stood up and patted off the leaves that had fallen on her body. "A bamboo that doesn't give off light? Why would we look for that?" Little Roar asked as he flew over. It's possible that it is the array core, Sima Yu explained. Anyway, let's just look for it together, okay? As such, the both of them wandered around the forest once again, this time looking for a bamboo that did not give off any light. Their goal was obvious in but a moment. Master, I can feel it. A very silent little spirit suddenly voiced out. Little spirit, what do you feel? Sima Yu said as she halted her steps. This place contains the aura of a spirit stone. Little spirit replied. Spirit stone? Is it a stone that's similar to you? Asked Sima Yu. How could you possibly compare that kind of thing to me? I'm a sacred spirit stone, you know. There's only one of me in the entire universe. I can be tempered into a spirit pearl and can contain the heaven and earth. While those kind of dregs can only be used to raise some varieties of spirits, at most, it's impossible for them to support life, Little Spirit said proudly. Then what are you so worked up for? Are you stupid? While this may be a mystical array, although it has been set up with the methods of an array, in fact this array core is useful for things related to spirits. It is only in this way that the formation would reach its peak potential, Little Spirit said. So you're saying that it's possible that the spirit stone could be the location of the formation core, Sima Yu said a little agitatedly. Humph, it's a good thing you're not that stupid, Little Spirit replied. Since you can feel its aura, are you able to pinpoint its specific location? Sima Yu asked. If I was on the outside of the array, I would be able to directly search for it. However, this is the inside of the array. I can only feel that it's close by, within a range of 50 meters. You can look for it yourself. After Little Spirit finished saying this, he refused to utter another word. Sima Yu looked around. This segment of bamboo was not very dense. Compared to other areas, this place was relatively sparse. She scrutinized every single stalk of bamboo and saw that every single one was glowing. There wasn't even a single stalk that fit with the description that she had. Could it be that my speculation was wrong? Sima Yu touched her chin, doubting her own idea. Yu? Maybe the array core doesn't lie within the bamboo? Little Roar offered. Not the bamboo? Yup, if the formation core really is the spirit stone, it will probably continue to resemble a stone. Right, Little Roar postulated. Ha, that's possible. Let us look over the stones one again. Sima Yu hugged Little Roar. Man and beast deciding to look over each little stone one by one. However, this place didn't even contain a single pebble. Looking at the only large rock in this entire place, Sima Yu finally set her sights upon it. Could this be it? She walked towards the stone and walked 2 circles around it. She felt that this stone appeared a little different from the one just now. She stretched out her hand to touch it, and it had a similar chill to the bamboo. Yu, is this it? Little Roar flew over to ask. Nope, Sima Yu said. If this was the array core, it would be a real item and would not have the same kind of ice-cold chill that the bamboo has. So, the core is also not here? Little Roar said with a little disappointment. No, it is here, Sima Yu said confidently. Are you able to kick this rock away? Piece of cake. Little Roar flew over to the top of the rock and tapped on it lightly with his little leg. The humongous rock was sent flying. Sima Yu looked at the bottom of the rock that was sent flying. It had a very black stone, which was around the size of a child's fist. Is this it? Sima Yu squat down and looked at that black stone. Do we just have to take this away? We don't know whether or not there's be an explosion. But I don't care. Even if a horse is dying, you still have to send it to the doctor. After saying this, she threw the little white ball into the spirit pearl and let out a breath. She stretched out her hand and grabbed onto the piece of spirit stone. Whoosh, whoosh. The quiet bamboo forest was interrupted by a sudden gust of wind that came from all sides as the ground looked like it was going to rip itself apart and shook incessantly. Bang. Sima Yu was unable to open her eyes because of the strong wind. She used the stone that she was grasping in her hands to block in front of her. However, she was unable to block the force of the wind rumble. The ground suddenly split apart and the crack rapidly enlarged. The leaves and bamboo all tumbled in indiscriminately. Ill go, as she was falling into the crack. Sima Yu held onto the stone in her hands and attempted to suppress the panic in her heart. Her blood flowed into the stone and Sima Yu felt a burst of pain spread out from her palms towards the rest of her body and all her bones, causing her to pass out. Just before she fainted, she only had one thought. If the ground were to join back together, would she be flattened into minced meat? Her consciousness faded away, and she did not know how long she had spent in that darkness. as her consciousness slowly started to recover. She opened her eyes and realized that she was currently within a canyon. There was a thick meadow underneath her and her clothes were clean. The dirt that was on her body just now when the earth broke apart was generally gone. She sat up and rubbed her head that was in a bit of pain. She was a little suspicious of whether or not her current situation was one of a dream. A burst of pain came from the palm of her hand and she opened up her palm. She saw that there were some scars on the palm of her hands and the wounds had not yet completely closed up. As a result of her movements just now, they had reopened. Looks like this isn't a dream. She took out her knife and cut off a part of the hem of her skirt to wrap her hand, using her mouth and left hand to tie a knot. After finishing this, she began to inspect the canyon. Similar to the bamboo forest just now, there were not any living creatures. There was not even a shadow of a spirit beast egg, just as before. The difference was that the place just now consisted entirely of a bamboo forest. But this place had many different types of flowers, plants, and trees. Could it be that I entered another array from that array? Sima Yu was puzzled. It shouldn't be. I don't feel any aura of an array. Little Spirit said, no array? Didn't you say that this place contained multiple illusion arrays? Nope, this is the real world, Little Spirit asserted. Then how do we go back? This place isn't within an array and looking for a spirit beast egg is not longer the method for sending us back out, Sima Yu said with a little bit of headache. Oh right, the spirit stone just now, do you know where it has disappeared to? It's with me, Little Spirit said. His mood was a little bad. Sima Yu felt that something was not right and asked, what's wrong? There's something strange about this item. I'll tell you about it when you get out of this place, Little Spirit said. I'll go look for a route out first. Then, Sima Yu replied. She walked towards the canyon and suddenly heard the same call from before. Chapter 33. Little Roar was flying beside Sima Yu and surveying the area when she suddenly halted in her tracks. Seeing her odd behavior, he asked, Yu, what happened? Did you hear that? She asked, hear what? There's only the rustling of leaves. What are you talking about? Little Roar froze and perked his ears up, fully focused on picking up any sounds. No matter how hard he focused, he didn't hear anything. She affirmed and ran forward quickly and finally stopped in front of a cave. Yu, how did you know there was a cave here? Little Roar flew to her side and looked at the dark cave entrance. I did not. It was the voice that led me here, she answered truthfully. What's inside? Little Roar asked. I don't know. Well, once we go in then we'll know. Sima Yu picked up a piece of broken branch on the ground and lit it up and she entered the dark cave cautiously with Little Roar with the torch in hand. The deeper they went in, the higher the temperature rose. It became so hot to the point that they felt as if they were being cooked alive. Yu, it's too hot in here. Little Roar could not take it any longer. Him who usually didn't work up any sweat was now drenched in it, and his fur clumped up with his sweat dripping down profusely. When she saw the severity of the state he was in, she quickly sent him into the spirit pearl as she walked deeper into the cave alone. Because the temperature was too high, the entire torch burnt out quickly, but luckily she had reached a stone chamber before the flame extinguished. She dug around the interspatial ring her Sheep Dad gave her and retrieved a night pearl from it. When she held it in her hands, her surroundings lit up and she could see much clearer. She had initially walked close to the walls of the cave which had finally led her to this stone chamber. Now that the night pearl had illuminated the place, she could see that the wall was actually red. Although she still maintained some distance from the walls, she could feel the heat that it was radiating out. What place is this? Such a rich fire spiritual chi. If I were to cultivate here, I wonder how many levels I can increase? She closed her eyes and sensed the dense red little dots dancing around and surrounded her as if wrapping her in a layer of aura. It's actually much more than what I have inside. She exclaimed, Master, this is an absolutely good opportunity for you. There's no need to hurry out. Stay here and cultivate first. This place is extremely favorable to you. It would definitely increase your cultivation by leaps and bounds, Little Spirit quickly voiced out. I'll have a look around this stone chamber first before I start then. She was also excited when presented with such a great opportunity. Maybe she'll be an expert when she leaves this cave. Before she entered, she saw that there was something placed in the middle of the stone chamber. She could only make out a vague shape then, but there wasn't enough light to see what it was. When she walked closer, she cried out, Spirit Beast Egg. Suddenly, the egg emitted flashes of resplendent red lights and the sudden glare made her shield her eyes with her arm. After the dazzling flashes of red light dispersed, the egg emitted a faint red glow which illuminated the entire stone chamber. She could see the room in its entirety and saw that the stone chamber had nothing else other than the spirit beast egg. The egg reached up to her chest and she could not put her arms around the whole egg. The spirit beast egg had a beautiful pattern, resembling a flame on it, and it left her fascinated, and she could not help but reach out to touch it. Prior to entering the cave, the cloth that was initially tied to her right hand was removed as it was too hot. When her hand touched the egg, her whole palm seemed to have been stuck to the eggshell. The temperature of the egg suddenly rose and she could feel an excruciating burning sensation from her palm. Almost seemingly a barbecue smell wafted in the air. She wanted to retract her hand, but she felt as if her blood and strength were flowing out of her body from her palm. She could only helplessly stand there, watching her blood flow out and formed various lines and runes, and soon the whole egg was surrounded by some strange inscriptions, eventually disappearing into the egg. With thy blood held within my body, thou shalt henceforth be joined. Life and death are one. By the glory of this vow of contract, illuminate the lands. Human, wouldst thou be willing to embrace and be bound to me by this contract? Just as she was about to faint, an archaic voice resounded, and that kept her awake. The pain was so severe to the point that she was trembling non-stop, her teeth was chattering, and her mind almost blanked out. Hearing the oppressive voice, she wanted to speak out, but no sound came out. Are thou willing? When the voice did not hear her answer, it asked again, I am willing. She gritted her teeth and squeezed out these 3 words. After mustering all her strength, beneath her feet, an array which comprised of a pentagram and some ancient runes appeared. A silvery white light wrapped around both the egg and her, and no longer felt any pain. A comfortable warmth embraced her, and it was as if she was soaked in warm water, and she felt it wash away all her pain and rejuvenate her. The pentagram slowly narrowed and condensed into 2 flashes of silvery white light. One flash flew into her chest while the other flash of light flew into the egg, concluding the establishment of the contract. She touched her chest and could feel that she was linked to the spirit beast egg in front of her. She had actually established a contract just like that. Before she had the time to think further, she felt an influx of spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy in her body suddenly grew. At her foot, a small star appeared, symbolizing her spiritual power had increased and showing her level. While she was still stunned, the small star quickly increased from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and it quickly increased to 9 stars when it suddenly condensed again, and eventually a moon and a small star appeared. That small star glowed again, and it was as if another star was going to appear, but the light dimmed and it finally stopped. Spirit Lord. First grade Spirit Lord. Sima Yu cried out in surprise when she saw the moon and star by her feet. Even after the lights had all disappeared, she was still frozen in stupor. She had heard before that establishing contracts with spirit beasts would increase their own strengths, but she did not expect such an outcome. She didn't think that establishing a contract with a spirit beast, well, in her case it was establishing a contract by a spirit beast, would actually trigger off such a big increase in level. This promotion was just like drinking water. She couldn't help but exclaim, "You, that's because it's not the usual average spirit beast that you've established a contract with." Little Roar, who had witnessed everything from the Spirit Pearl, explained, "That's because the greater the power of the contract and the higher the level of the spirit beast would result with the greater the spirit energy the spirit master can attain. The spirit beast that you've contracted to must have a very pure lineage from a great background." That strange little spirit said, "Why? What's strange? I didn't feel any signs of life when you entered. That is to say, that egg should have been a dead egg," little spirit answered as he explained his analysis out in a befuddled manner. "However, the moment your blood touched it, it was as if it had awakened in an instant." "Really? There was such a thing?" Sima Yu looked at the egg and tried to feel through their link to ascertain that this was indeed alive. "Didn't that archaic voice belong to the spirit beast within the egg?" "I'm very sure," little spirit answered solemnly. "The spirit beast egg doesn't look like it's just been placed here. It should have been around for a long time. If it wasn't a dead egg before, I think perhaps your promotion would have even been greater at this time." The spirit beast egg suddenly moved a bit, and Sima Yu thought that it was about to hatch when it suddenly just flew straight into her body. Hiss. When the egg went into her body, she felt her body was ablaze and realized that she was cloaked in fire. Chapter 34. The fire that cloaked Sima Yu lit up the entire stone chamber, bright as day, as she felt her meridians and bones burning. However, this was a different burning sensation to her palm. Although her whole body was wrapped in flames, The flames seemed to be part of her body, and the flames danced brilliantly on every single part of her body. All the impurities in her meridians were incinerated, and now she could feel that her meridians were all free of impurities, and not only that, she could also clearly feel that her once narrow meridians had widened significantly. With widened meridians, it also meant that her cultivation would increase at a much faster pace as more spiritual chi could be absorbed. In addition to her wider meridians, her bones and flesh seemed to be much tougher and stronger than before. She crumbled to the ground as the intense pain gnawed at her bones and flesh while her meridians were expanding and impurities burnt away. She rolled on the floor, trying to alleviate the pain as time slowly ticked by. No matter how painful it was, she stubbornly clenched her teeth together, refusing to utter a single sound of pain. Each time her body expelled some black sticky fluid, the fire would then incinerate it. This process kept repeating itself until the pain became dull and she only felt numb. Nothing will happen to you, right? Little Roar was extremely worried, looking at this scene from within the spirit pearl. Nothing will happen to her. She will definitely make it, Little Spirit affirmed emotionally. He had always thought of Sima Yu as a small girl that had just embarked on the path to cultivation and didn't think she held such tenacity. Despite the excruciating pain that she was going through, she didn't utter a single sound. They could understand the torturous pain that she was going through as they shared a link through their contract. Little Spirit was shocked and in awe however much pain and torment she was going through. Her eyes held a strong and unwavering will of determination. Such people were meant for great things. He started to anticipate what her future would be. Ha! I told you little Yu is very amazing. Ling Long was leisurely lying atop Little Roar with her hands beneath her head, not at all worried. For someone who could understand the depths of her soul, would not be stopped by something like this. All these was also witnessed by the spirit stone that was thrown in as it emitted a faint glow. When Little Spirit saw this, his eyes narrowed. Sima Yu did not know how much time had passed, and when she felt that her body could no longer take it, the flames started to weaken and finally dissipated. She groaned and tried to move her fingers. They could only twitch at first, and after a few tries, she could wriggle them, and cracking noises resounded in the stone chamber as she moved her whole body and the stiff joints started cracking. Fortunately, after moving for a bit, her body movement resumed normally. She lay on the ground, panting as she looked at the ceiling in a daze. The whole experience was as if she had just walked through the sea of flames in hell. Nirvana fire has just cleansed your whole body. This would be a great help to your future cultivation. The same archaic voice sounded out. Nirvana fire? Who are you? Why did you take the initiative to make a contract with me? Sima Yu asked when she heard that voice sound out. I am called Crimson Flame. For everything else, the current you doesn't need to know. When the time comes, you will naturally know. The voice was somewhat low and magnetic. Aren't the both of us in a contract? Since we have already established a blood link, what is there to hide from each other? Sima Yu pressed on. Knowing too much now won't be good for you. Your Bodhi's condition was too terrible, so I've helped you to temper it with Nirvana flames. Your cultivation will be able to improve much faster from now. Have a look at your Dantian. I cannot see it now, she said with remorse. Give it a try. Don't tell me after tempering my body with Nirvana flames, I can now view my Dantian? Sima Yu was still skeptical, but she did as she was told. She closed her eyes and used her own consciousness to probe as she tried to visualize the interior of her body. Without trying she wouldn't know, but when she tried, she had a huge shock. She could actually see the internal structure of her body, down to her meridians and blood vessels. To the Dantian, Crimson Flame said, "All right." She continued to guide her consciousness to the desired location, and the first thing she saw was a pool. This must be the spiritual pool that Little Spirit mentioned last time. The spiritual pool was divided into a few segments. Each had a little level of liquid in it, however. There was one that was red in color, and the level was filled the most, which showed that currently her fire attribute was the most powerful, a manifestation of her consciousness as her tiny form appeared beside the pool, and she was looking at a small red pearl that was rotating in the middle of it. Surrounding it was a cylindrical space on its own which held absolutely no spiritual energy. She stared at it in curiosity and asked, "What is that?" "That is what was formed after your body underwent tempering under the Nirvana fire." "Look up," Crimson Flame said. She looked up and saw a rich flow of red spiritual chi flowing in the meridians and flowing into the spiritual pool. That's the fire attribute spiritual chi. Sima Yu asked, "But I'm not cultivating now?" "That is the role of the pearl. As long as it rotates, it will automatically absorb the spiritual chi around you. Even when you are not cultivating, spiritual chi will be absorbed here," Crimson Flame answered. "Wow. So good." Sima Yu exclaimed, "Isn't this simply a high-level cheat?" Even when she's not cultivating, spiritual chi would automatically be absorbed. This way, she would have more time to do her own things. Because she was too excited, her consciousness suddenly bounced out of her body, ending the internal view. "You are now very weak in strength, so you should seize the time to cultivate and not be lazy. This place has millions of years of fire spiritual chi accumulated in here, and a very suitable environment for you to cultivate. I will be in deep slumber from now on, don't disturb me." After saying his piece, there was absolute silence. She tried to sense his presence and realized that he already fallen into slumber. If he was going to sleep, the least he could do was to tell me what spirit beast he is. Sima Yu was stumped as she grumbled, "Cough cough. Although there isn't anyone else around. But Yu, I think it's still best you put on some clothes first," Little Roar reminded. Only then did Sima Yu realize that her clothes had been burned into ashes by the flames, and she quickly brought out a new set of men's robes and put them on. She started thinking about her current situation. Since she was presented with such an opportunity, she certainly would not waste it. After she checked that there was nothing else in the stone chamber, she sat down at where the egg was previously and began cultivating at the same time. At the back mountain at the Imperial Academy, the spirit beast egg selection had been over since 3 days ago. All the students had came out of teleportation arrays after they had selected their eggs. Everyone had came out after 2 days, all except for Sima Yu. Feng Zhixing was still waiting in the cave, staring resolutely at the 4th teleportation array, looking forward to a reaction from it. "How long are you going to wait here for?" The principal came to the cave and asked the forlorn Feng Zhixing. "I'll wait until he comes back." He looked up at the principal and turned his attention back to the array. The principal let out a soft sigh and asked, "In the end, what is the relationship between you and him?" When he saw that Feng Zhixing cast his gaze on him, he finally asked the question that he held in for so long. "You do not treat him like a teacher to a student. The main reason that you've decided to teach here was also because of him, right? Tell me, what is the relationship between the both of you?" Chapter 35. Feng Zhixing heard what the old principal had said, and he pondered for a bit, saying, "The relationship between him and myself is merely because someone has entrusted me with the task of taking care of him." "Who asked you to take care of him?" The old principal asked. "Principal, you also know of the things that are happening in that world. I know that you and General Sima have a very good relationship. Anyway, I will not harm him. Furthermore, there is the Sima family to consider," Feng Zhixing said. "Also, there are the rules that constrain me. I would be unable to randomly interfere. I am not worried about what you would do," the old principal sighed, saying, "I am just worried for you. If anything should happen to that child, nothing will happen," Feng Zhixing assured. "That man's child will not lose his life so easily." Feng Zhizeng said it with such assurance. But he did not know that Sima Yu had actually already run into a bad situation, and her body was currently inhabited by a different soul. "Sai, you are a teacher. You cannot continue to keep watch here indefinitely," the old principal said. "When it's time for classes to begin, I will head to my class." Feng Zhixing said, "Oh right, principal, do you know where this teleportation array leads to?" "Don't know. The people who come out always say that they don't know where they've been. The only information I have is that it appears as if everyone who goes in will go to a different place," the old principal said. "But as for a specific location, it remains unclear." In this case, Feng Zhixing was a little frustrated. "You should just go back. If he returns from some other place, you wouldn't be able to see from here anyway," the old principal said. "In a while, I also have to head to the general's residence to relate this piece of information to General Sima. I'll go with you." Feng Zhixing suddenly thought of something as he said to the principal. The principal nodded his head, and the two of them headed to the general's residence. Sima Lai listened to the fact that there was no news about Sima Yu in shock. He wanted to go look for her immediately. However, it was completely unknown where the teleportation array had sent her. Even if he wanted to look for her, there was no way. "General Sima, you should have Sima Yu's life jade, right?" Feng Zhixing asked. Sima Yu heard Feng Zhixing's words and his face immediately darkened. He asked, "How did you know?" "Don't care about where I got this piece of information from. For now, you should first check whether or not her life jade is in good condition, Feng Zhixing said anxiously. Sima Lai saw the worry on Feng Zhixing's face and stopped harping on this question, with a single thought. A plain black jade box appeared in his hand. He opened the black jade box and inside it rested a white jade. The white jade had 2 flushing red circles, as if it were human blood. This piece is Yu Yu's life jade. It is in good condition. It means that she is still alive, Sima Lai said. As he looked at the piece of white jade listening to Sima Lai's words, Feng Zhixing's anxious heart gradually calmed down. It's really because her life jade has no sign of activity that I could not detect her being in any form of danger. Sima Lai put the jade back in its rightful place and put the black jade box back into the interspatial ring. He looked at Feng Zhixing and said, "You can tell me now, how did you know about Yu Yu's life jade?" Feng Zhixing replied, "Of course I would know, because I was the one who helped her mother make it." "So you are?" Sima Lai looked at Feng Zhixing in shock. "That's right," Feng Zhixing said. "Don't tell you about this, of course I understand this," Sima Lai said. "Since this is finished, I will return to the school first." The old principal said, "Okay. In case there is any sign of activity from that child, I ask for you to let me know." Sima Lai said, "I will," after waiting for the old principal and Feng Zhixing to leave. Sima Yuqi and the rest went to Sima Lai's house and said, "Grandpa, 5th brother, he's is not in any danger, right?" "Right now we only know that his life is not in any danger," Sima Lai said. "But we have no idea what his current circumstances are. We are unable to discern this information from the life jade." "I'll go look for 5th brother," Sima Yuran said. "Come back." Sima Lai called out, "You also know about the Academy's teleportation array. Nobody knows where Yu Yu's been sent to. The kingdom's so huge, where would you go to look? But we can't just wait here." Sima Yuming said, "Apart from waiting, there's nothing else we can do right now," Sima Lai said. "But 5th brother's life jade is still in good condition. We can also pretty much guess his current situation," Sima Yuran said. "5th brother must have encountered some kind of situation and cannot return for a while. Who knows? Maybe he will return in a few days." Aside during the following days, Feng Zhixing would come by every few days to inquire about the condition of Yu Yu's life jade. Everyone also become accustomed to checking the condition of the life jade every day. Although they knew that she was currently alive within the academy, they disseminated the information that Sima Yu had entered through the 4th teleportation array and had been sent to some godforsaken place and died. When this piece of news was being passed around, there were people in the academy who took pleasure in others' suffering, of course. Those who hated Sima Yu were amongst the happy ones. The ones who were the happiest were the Morong En and Nalan family. Amongst those who were worried, apart from her dorm roommates and Feng Zhixing, it was actually Meng Ting. The days passed one by one. An entire month had gone by, but Sima Yu had yet to return. Apart from those few worried people, the others had apparently been convinced that she was already dead. He Qiuji's worried heart had also slowly calmed down. During the time where everyone was incomparably worried about Sima Yu, she was actually deep in meditation, cultivating, because she had already reached the ranks of the Spirit Lord. She no longer had any need to eat. As a result, she had cultivated non-stop for a few days. Following the saying of the previous generations, a few days passed by with the blink of an eye. After waiting for her to blink a few times, lights that signified an advancement in rank appeared under her feet. After she had finished advancing, she was already at the 5th rank, the spiritual. Qi inside the cave had gradually dissipated to nothing. Sima Yu glanced around at her surroundings and never thought that this inconspicuous cave would actually accumulate so much spiritual qi of the fire attribute. Furthermore, it was so dense. It had allowed her rise 4 whole spirit ranks in but a moment. "It is merely the results of this environment," little spirit voiced out, "with the agreement that you initially had with that spirit beast egg. At that time you had some semblance of force accumulating in your body. It wouldn't have let you grow by so much in such a short while. Right now, it's being released little by little. It was with the aid of this environment that you actually rose up 4 ranks, so it was actually because of this spirit beast egg. If it was an egg that allowed one's spiritual energy to rise by so much, what kind of spirit beast would this be?" While you were practicing, we went outside to take a look. Outside of this canyon lies a range of mountains. This mountain range appears to be huge, a huge mountain range. Sima Yu started to search her brain for information. A large mountain range in Beichan. One of it was Pu Luo Mountain Range in the north, while one of it was Baili Mountain Range in the south. comparing these two mountain ranges. Puluo appeared to be slightly smaller, while Baili was a little bigger. Also, the spirit animals that were living on Baili mountain range were much higher in quality. I don't know whether we are on Baili mountain range or Puluo mountain range. She stood up and pat the dust off her clothes. The problem will be solved if we just leave the canyon, catch a spirit beast and ask it. Little Roar said, "Yup. This is the only thing we can do now." Sima Yu hugged Little Roar and exited the cave, following along the canyon. They left really quickly and entered a valley. Before they had the opportunity to scan their surroundings, she heard Little Roar say, "Yu, there's a person on this side of the river." Sima Yu looked towards the river bank and saw a person lying on a huge rock by the riverside. He was sprawled on top of the rock and his face was facing to one side. The rock was dyed red as fresh red blood was flowing out from beneath the body. Chapter 36. Sima Yu walked over, looked at the fresh blood on the rock and said, "This person has lost so much blood. Could he be dead?" Yu, I can still hear sounds of his breathing." Little Roar looked at Sima Yu with disdain. Sigh. Ever since she had reincarnated and lost her memories, she had become more and more stupid after losing so much blood. If he was still on Earth, he would long have been completely dead. Little Roar was apparently quite interested in this person. Before Sima Yu had walked over, it had already pounced off her body and flew over to where that person was. "Yu, this person is really attractive," Little Roar exclaimed when he looked at that person's face. Sima Yu walked over and looked at his face clearly. He had a sharp face that was extremely handsome, a rather straight nose and sexy lips. His eyes were closed, so there was no way of knowing whether they were good-looking or not. However, his long eyelashes were definitely extremely attractive. He was definitely a pretty boy. However, she had seen plenty of this kind in her past life. Even though they were not as handsome as he was, she had already developed some immunity. She frowned and said, "He really is more good-looking at me. All those who are more attractive than me are my enemies. Let's go." "Yu, you're not going to save him?" Little Roar exclaimed when it saw that Sima Yu was only momentarily stunned by that person's face and was about to go off. "Why should I save him?" Sima Yu glacéed at that person and said, "You should have left from this place earlier. And when you returned he was not even here. How come he was here the moment we exited? Don't you find it strange? It could be that I returned at the same time that he had been hurt by the spirit beast and ran over to this place and fainted." Little Roar said. Sima Yu walked forward by 2 steps and lifted Little Roar, who was lying in front of the person while salivating. She said, "Little Roar, don't think that I'm unaware that you have a perverted heart lying underneath your apparently pure exterior. You're a sacred beast. Not a pervert." "I'm not a pervert." Little Roar was picked up by Sima Yu by his neck with 4 of its limbs dangling in the air. "Yu, we could possibly find out where this place is if we save him. It's always better to ask a person than to ask a spirit beast at most. A spirit beast would be able to tell you where this place is, while a person would be able to tell you how to leave." Sima Yu eventually stopped in her tracks. She pondered over Little Roar's words and said, "Your words make sense. All right then, we'll save him first." After bringing him to dry ground, she turned him over. She looked at the long wound on his stomach and it appeared as if it had been inflicted by a spirit beast's claw. It extended from his left chest all the way to the right of his stomach, injured to such a large extent and losing so much blood. "It's so strange that he hasn't died yet." She clicked her tongue and sighed when she looked at his wounds. "Yu, can he still be saved?" Little Roar asked as he floated beside her. "He's not dead yet," Sima Yu said, after which she flipped over the ring that her cheap father had left behind and found the pellet of medicine that he had left behind. She took out a piece for him to eat. It was only after he had eaten it that she noticed words 4th grade on the jade bottle. This was one of the most precious treasure of the entire Dongchun kingdom, so few that they could be counted with one's fingers. Thinking about how she had actually given this 4th grade medicine to a stranger, she started to feel immeasurable pain in her heart. "Is just doing this enough?" Little Roar asked. "This is a 4th grade medicine," Sima Yu said. "That time when I was hurt, the general's residence didn't even have this 4th grade medicine. Grandpa actually had to go look for that Grandmaster Sure or whatever to exchange for 2 3rd grade medicinal pills." Talking about Sima Lai, she felt like she missed him a little bit. "I don't know how grandfather is doing now. I've not contacted them in so long. He and my brothers must be worried to death." "Yu, don't worry. When he comes to, we will know where we are and find out how to get back. Little Roar comforted Sai. All we can do now is to wait for him to wake up. Sima Yu sighed and said, You can make your body grow bigger, right? Yup. Little Roar nodded its head. Then you should make yourself bigger and carry him on your back and bring him to the cave. Sima Yu said, What? You actually want me to carry him on my back? Little Roar shouted in shock. Didn't you want to save him? Sima Yu dug her ears and said, He's so big and this place is so far from the cave, if I drag him back, I'm just afraid that he would be dead even before we reach the cave entrance. Anyway, it's pretty good for you to get an opportunity to get close and intimate with this pretty boy. I'm a sacred beast that has integrity and morals. Little Roar retorted, So are you carrying him or not? Sima Yu asked. I will. The little white ball had definitely thrown away whatever integrity and morals it had for the sake of this pretty boy. It trembled in the air for a while, and its originally small body gradually became bigger, until it was about the size of a person. Sima Yu moved that man on top of Little Roar's back, and she herself also crawled on. Little Roar flew back to the cave with the both of them on his back. When they reached the cave, Sima Yu, in a rare expression of kindness, took out an old bed from the spirit pearl, although a person would rock and sway upon sitting atop that old bed. However, lying on it was definitely much better than directly just throwing him on the floor. When the bed was ready, she carefully placed him on the bed and took Ling Long out to turn her into a knife, cutting the clothes on his body to pieces. Yu, are you acting like a rogue? Little Roar turned back into its small appearance and flew over, remaining at a side. It saw the clothes that Sima Yu had cut and both of its ears hung down. It stuck out its claws to cover both of its eyes. This was a useless act since half of its eyes were peeping out. Sima Yu's face turned completely black upon hearing what Little Roar said. She retorted, I learned in the past that if you don't want to save someone then don't, but if you do, you need to put in all your effort to get it done well. Although he's eaten that medicine, his wounds still need to be cleaned. Oh, so that's why. I thought that you wanted to act like a rogue and take advantage of him. Little Roar straightforwardly looked at the body of the man lying down on the bed with its mouth open wide. The only thing missing was its heart-shaped eyes. Sima Yu could no longer bear to look at its intensely lustful face and grabbed its stomach to fling it backwards, straight outside, without Little Roar messing around on the side. Sima Yu could fully concentrate once again. She took out water and a towel from the spirit pearl and wiped away the bloodstains on his body. After that, she carefully washed his wounds, in order to avoid causing the man on the bed to wake up from the pain. She intentionally made her actions slightly more gentle. The man on the bed briefly woke up when she had bent over to clean his wounds. He opened his pair of hazy eyes and saw her sparkling and clear eyes single-mindedly examine his wounds. It appeared that he had been saved. He inwardly examined the situation of his body and ascertained that he had been saved, after which, he immediately fainted again. When that man had woken up, Sima Yu happened to squat down to rinse the towel, so she did not notice. When she had finished washing away the stains from his body, she realized that his wounds were already beginning to scab. Although I've seen the effects of this world's medicine many times, I always feel it's amazing. She stretched out her hand to touch the scars. When I have the time, I should look for 2 medicine books to read and learn a bit of pill concoction. After she had packed, only that large bed remained in the cave. Thinking about how she had not yet slept because she had been cultivating, she felt a bit sleepy looking at the bed. She looked at how that man was sleeping on less than half the bed and how she was also dressed as a man, so she crawled onto the bed and fell asleep. Chapter 37. After a period of time, the man slowly opened his eyes in the darkness. That pair of eyes flashed a light before dimming and became clear. Ugh. He habitually stretched out to touch his forehead, but this small movement itself had triggered off a series of pain from various wounds all over his whole body. This series of pain jolted him awake as his once fuzzy consciousness resumed its usual sharpness. Master, you're awake. The voice of the fire Qilin came from the contract space. Yawu Lingyu groaned and began recalling the things that happened before he had lost his consciousness. He recalled that he had followed the clues and went to the Puluo mountain range in search of that thing. However, not long after arriving, his fainting phenomenon occurred again. This fainting phenomenon was a period in which his soul was extremely vulnerable and would faint from time to time. This time round, however, he could not call out his fire Qilin and had encountered a sacred spirit beast. If it was a normal day, He would not even put a beast of such caliber in his eyes. But this time round, his fainting phenomenon had suddenly occurred, way earlier than usual. This had caused him to almost lose his life here, master. Your fainting spells have been recurring at much shorter intervals these 2 years. We must find that thing as soon as possible, Fire Qilin advised, his voice deep with worry. I know, he nodded his head weakly and asked again. I remember before I fainted, I was by the river. How am I in a cave now? Master, have you not realized that there is someone else lying beside you? Fire Qilin asked deviously. Wu Lingyu was shocked. He hadn't even realized that there was someone else lying beside him. If that person wanted his life, it was easy for that person to succeed, master. There's no need for panic. She saved you, Fire Qilin said. Even though his soul was extremely vulnerable and weak now, and the interior of the cave was dark, that still shouldn't hinder him from sensing the presence of another in such close proximity. He remembered before losing his consciousness. He saw a pair of bright eyes. Does it mean the person beside him was the owner of those eyes? Well, it's as if she's melded into this darkness and almost erased her presence. So it's normal that you weren't able to sense her. Fire Qilin comforted his master. Wu Lingyu took out a medicinal pill from his interspatial ring. This pill was a much higher-tiered medicinal pill than the one Sima Yu had fed him. After swallowing the pill, he meditated and used his spiritual energy to circulate the pill to amplify its effect, after his soul felt more comfortable. He then sat up and took out a string of illumination pearls, wanting to have a look at the person whom he was lying next to. However, what he saw instead was a pair of eyes that were looking back at him. You've woken up. Sima Yu sat up and looked at Wu Lingyu, although she was sleeping. However, the assassin instincts that was honed over the years made her extra sensitive to movements and sounds around her, so, when Wu Lingyu had woken up and ate the medicinal pill, she was already well awake by then. It's you? Wu Lingyu was surprised when he saw her close beside him. You know who I am? Sima Yu put her both feet on the ground and climbed off the bed to stand beside him. This guy not only was handsome. He had a pair of deep eyes that could take one's breath away with his eyes closed. He looked very pure and innocent, however. When he opened his eyes, they had a glint in them that suggested otherwise. His intent gaze was one that felt as if they were capable of hooking one's soul away just from a simple gaze. You can count it as I do, Wu Lingyu affirmed. That time when he was in Dongchun Kingdom's capital city, he had seen her bash a man up into a complete waste. He also remembered that they even had a small discussion on this, so he still had a faint impression of this girl disguised as a man in front of him. Sima Yu thought that he was talking about her fame as a waste. It seems that this lord's reputation is quite renowned. Well, since this lord has saved you, isn't there any reward? Wu Lingyu was rather amused. This brat was obviously a girl in disguise, but she kept saying this lord, although she had on an illusion ring which masked her gender. Did she think that this low level of enchantment could elude his Fire Qilin's sense? He flashed her an enigmatic smile and asked in a deep seductive tone. So, tell me, what do you want as reward? Any reward will do, but I do have a preference for the likes of gold coins and gems. Sima Yu did not expect him to give her anything specific and had casually mentioned something. I can give you a very good reward, but I have a condition. Wu Lingyu continued smiling and said, what condition? Sima Yu furrowed her brows. This guy actually wanted to discuss terms and conditions with her. You have to accompany me for a period of time, he said. After that, I will generously reward you. Why? Sima Yu was completely stumped at his request. Before I completely recover. I can't leave here, he answered in a straightforward manner. Do you know where we are? She asked. The Pu Luo mountain range to the south of Dongchun Kingdom, thousands of miles away from the capital. He replied. Sure enough, they were really at the Pu Luo mountain range. That blasted teleportation array actually brought her to such a desolated place. Sima Yu grumbled in her heart, but I need to go back. I've been away for too long. My grandfather must be very worried about me. Sima Yu sounded distant for a bit. If that's the case, I can't give you any reward. Wu Lingyu casually looked at her. I actually wanted to give you a medicinal pill that could promote the ranks, an advancement elixir. Well, forget about it then. Advancement elixir? I know that General Sima have been stuck at a bottleneck for a long time, and I happen to have with me 2 advancement elixirs and thought that if you were to accompany me for a period of time, I will give them to you as a reward, but it'll stay with you, she replied almost immediately. However, You better not be lying to me or else do not take me lightly. Just to let you know that I have the means to save you but also the means to kill you. Wu Linjia's mouth curved up slightly. This bratty girl's tone wasn't not very small. Doesn't seem like the legendary waste that everyone had made her out to be. Thinking back on her reputation as a waste, he asked, "This place is filled with spirit beasts. How did you get here?" "The Academy's teleportation array sent me here. Those light pearls you have there are very good. They are really bright. Come on, take out a few more out." After which, she turned around and went out. "Where are you going?" "To prepare dinner." Sima Yu left the cave as a guise. She didn't want him to know that she had her own space that was akin to a world. Interspatial rings could only contain items and not anything that had a breath of life. "Master, why are you getting a waste to protect you?" Fire Qilin couldn't help but ask in the contract space. "Now that you're awake, I can just send you back to the Sacred Palace and let you recuperate." "We're not returning to the Sacred Palace for now. Since we've come all the way here, how can we leave without finding anything conclusive?" "But still it doesn't make any sense to have a waste protect you." Fire Qilin was befuddled and asked in anguish, "Doesn't it make you curious to what her secret is?" "A waste surviving alone on the dangerous and desolate Pu Luo mountain range without a single shred of worry or fear. While we were in the capital that time, we received news that she had been missing for 2 months, which means to say that she's been surviving out here for more than 2 months on her own. Doesn't it make you want to know how she's been surviving up till now?" "Now that you've mentioned it, it really does make me curious," Fire Qilin said. "But it's not like your usual self. You are practically cold-blooded. Since when did you take any interest in someone else's matter?" "What cold blood are you muttering about?" Wu Lingyu expressed his dissatisfaction with the Fire Qilin's own evaluation of himself. "No matter what, I am the Sage Pavilion's holy son and representing our sacred entity to the world and sharing the glory of our Fire." Qilin stopped him short and scoffed. "That is the personage you project in front of other people. Don't mix your real self with that fake mask." "Oh well, it's about the same anyway," Wu Lingyu muttered as he lay down. "Sima Yu, you've sparked my curiosity." Chapter 38. While Wu Lingyu was lying down in bed trying to sort out the clues he had, a tantalizing smell of barbecue wafted in shortly. Sima Yu walked in with a roasted chicken and saw that Wu Lingyu had indeed brought out more light pearls, and the entire cave was illuminated as bright as day. She then took out a table from her interspatial ring as well as a plate and placed the roasted chicken on the plate as she proceeded on carve the chicken into several pieces and asked, "Would you like to have some?" She had given it some thought and had decided that since she won't be able to hide the fact that she could cultivate, she might as well openly use her interspatial ring for convenience. All she needed to do was to hide the fact that she had her own space which could keep live animals inside. She just needed to keep her spirit pearl's existence a secret. "You can use an interspatial ring," Wu Lingyu said it very matter-of-factly, without any surprise. "Well, as long as one's a spirit master, it can be used," she replied. "Rumors has it that you can't cultivate, let alone sense the spiritual qi," he pointed out. "As you've said." "Rumors?" She brushed it off as she steered the conversation away. "Then what's your name? Would you like to eat?" "If you aren't eating it all, Wu Lingyu, well then, Wu Lingyu, do you want to eat?" she asked again. Usually he didn't eat such simple food, but when he saw her bright eyes looking at him, he nodded his head and agreed. Sima Yu pushed the table to the bed so that he could sit up and eat. She then put some on a clean plate for him and she carefully savored the rest of the meat, slowly picking at it. The way she ate it was also an art as she ate it elegantly. Wu Lingyu picked up a chicken wing and bit into it without much thought. However, the burst of flavors that came right after was a huge surprise to him as he subconsciously took a bigger bite next. "Never would I have thought that you are able to cook something so delicious, not having eaten anything so delicious in a long while, moreover in such a desolate place." He praised her generously. "There's more things that you've not thought before." When she saw little Roar enter, she took out the roast chicken she had prepared for him earlier from her interspatial ring. You're so mean. Why didn't you call me when you have such good stuff here?" Little Roar couldn't speak now, so he transmitted the message to her directly to her mind. "Even if I didn't call you, aren't you here now?" She affectionately poked him on his head. "I heard you happily chatting with another spirit beast just now. How did I not find out about this perverted personality of yours before?" "I'm not Little Roar weakly protested, however the vindication behind it also made it unable to believe it himself. Your contract beast? Wu Lingyu asked as he looked at Little Roar in curiosity. She glanced at him and replied, yes, a useless and perverted one at that. Hey, who's useless? Little Roar retorted, it's pretty cute, Wu Lingyu said, thanks for your praise. By the time Sima Yu finished gnawing on her last piece of chicken, she stood up and said, it's safe in here, the spirit beasts won't encroach this area. So rest assured and recuperate well. Following that, she left the cave. Little Roar was holding the roast chicken and he looked at the cave entrance and turned his little head to look at Wu Lingyu. He seemed to be in a dilemma and he finally tore his gaze away from Wu Lingyu and went out of the cave with the chicken. Although he was someone who appreciated beauty, the most important to him was still his master. When Wu Lingyu saw the reluctance Little Roar had, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. After sensing Sima Yu and Little Roar had gone far away, Fire Qilin appeared in his human form, donning on a set of fiery red robes, and he swaggered over to his master's side. He came to the table and sat down as he helped himself to a chicken thigh. Chomping the chicken gleefully, master, this girl has pretty good cooking skills. He was relishing the moment and licking his fingers as he ate. Why did you eat my chicken thigh? Wu Lingyu was sternly staring at the Fire Qilin. Well, anyway you don't eat such food. Fire Qilin continued enjoying the chicken thigh in his hands and in a few moments he had completely gnawed it clean. He reached out for another piece of chicken but Wu Lingyu smacked his hands away and threw the chicken head to him instead. Can you identify what spirit beast was that beside her? Wu Lingyu asked. When Fire Qilin saw that his attention was not on the chicken, he quickly grabbed another piece of chicken and started eating it. You mean that guy? He's the ancient sacred beast? How can an ancient sacred beast appear in such a desolate place in the lower realm? Wu Lingyu was surprised with Little Roar's identity and asked, no idea, Fire Qilin said while chewing, and it seems that he's been severely injured because of this. It has significantly reduced his powers. If he were to enter the upper realms with such mediocre strength, he's bound to be torn into pieces by other spirit beasts in no time. Moreover, his master is so weak. Thinking back when he saw Little Roar, even he himself was shocked as the ancient sacred beast was very rare, even in the upper realms. To actually see one here in such a desolate place in the lower realm was even more like a miracle. In the eyes of others, she is nothing but a waste, but not only can she cultivate, she also has a contract with the ancient sacred beast She's really making me more curious. Wu Lingyu's lips curled up into a charmingly devilish smile. When Fire Qilin saw Wu Lingyu smile, he held a moment of silence in his heart for Sima Yu. Each time his master had on such a smile, it meant that the inner demon in his master was at work. Not once had those that were the target of the smile had ever met a good ending. Where's my roast chicken? By the time Wu Lingyu had recovered from his thoughts, he found that other than the half-eaten chicken wing in his hands, all that he saw was a pile of chicken bones in front of him. The Fire Qilin, who was still eating the chicken, put on a very serious expression and said, Master, with regards to that matter, let me go and check it. Since we share a soul contract, if I'm near it, I will be able to sense it too, this time. Let number 2 protect you. Wu Lingyu threw the finished chicken wing onto the table and coldly said, I don't need you to worry about such things. Then I'm off. Fire Qilin left the cave and flew into the mountains. Sima Yu looked at the mountains and saw that the spirit beast that Little Roar was happily chatting with earlier and had called over was actually a saint-ranked Iron Claw tiger. She then learned more about the Pu Luo mountain range from this Iron Claw tiger, such as the various powers of the spirit beasts residing in this mountain range, as well as the various territories. After she had learned everything she wanted to know, she told it that it was free to go. However, the Iron Claw tiger looked at her hesitatingly. What's the matter? Sima Yu asked. Well, I've kinda taken a liking Little Roar, and since I'm all alone here, why don't you take me in? Iron Claw tiger said in an embarrassed manner. Cough cough. Sima Yu was almost choked to death by her own saliva. She looked at the Iron Claw tiger incredulously and gulped. I thought you spirit beasts despise humans? And you, a saint-ranked spirit beast, actually want to take the initiative to have me, a mere spirit master who just started cultivating, as your master? Iron Claw tiger looked at Little Roar and said, I was actually chased out by my family clan, and I've been wandering about these mountains all on my own for so long, since boss has already followed you. I believe that you will grow to be incredibly strong in the future. I believe in boss. Sima Yu glanced at the smug little roar by the side who currently had his nose in the air as she wondered how did he actually cheat a spirit beast of such caliber over. She looked at him helplessly and explained, "Look, I would love to have you as my contract spirit beast, but I'm not a beast tamer and I do not have the beast taming skills to suppress your spirit energy. I can't establish any contract with you as I won't be able to handle the backlash." Little Roar face-palmed as he lamented. "Arg, how could I forget such an important thing? Just as he was so proud of himself, he actually missed out such a detail. Does that mean that I can no longer follow boss around?" Iron Claw Tiger asked dejectedly. Little Roar flew over to Iron Claw Tiger, landed on his back and said, "Don't worry, your awesome boss here still has an awesome ultimate move." Chapter 39. Ultimate move? Sima Yu looked at Little Roar, her eyes clouded with disbelief. She had already realized that this brat was completely unreliable and unworthy of any belief of being able to come up with any good idea. "I'm telling the truth." Little Roar protested. "Then why don't you tell me what idea you have?" Sima Yu said as she noticed his disappointment. Actually in the past there was a method that did not require taming but used a contract. Instead, Little Roar said, "You can contract it without needing to tame it?" Sima Yu said with a little surprise, "I've never heard of it before. It's normal for you to not to have heard of it." Little Roar said, "Spirit beasts were very averse towards humans at first, so wanting them to accept a master was an impossible task. Furthermore, it's an ancient method that has long been lost, so these beasts are also unaware of this. This can also be done?" Sima Yu said, "Of course. Think about that egg, didn't it initiate a contract with you?" Little Roar said, "Oh yes. Now that you mention it, I remember." Sima Yu looked at Little Roar and said, "You actually knew it long ago, didn't you? But you were not surprised at all. As such, you already knew what that egg was, yes or no?" Little Roar didn't expect that he had just said a single sentence for Sima Yu to realize this. He smacked his own head and said, "With regards to that, boss, she said that we wouldn't tell you. You don't ask about this anymore. It's for your own good that we're not telling you this information." "Yup, I understand." Sima Yu saw how frustrated Little Roar was and did not wish to trouble him. Since Crimson Flame had said that it was for her own good, she wouldn't ask anymore. However, this method that you talked about means that he has to take the initiative to acknowledge a master? That's right, Little Roar nodded its head. "Boss, but I don't know how to take initiative to acknowledge a master," Iron Claw Tiger pointed out. "No problem, this boss will teach you how," Little Roar said as he patted Iron Claw Tiger's back. "But you said that the beasts of this generation don't know the method of initiating contracts, so how come you know how?" Sima Yu asked. "Of course it's been passed down to me." Little Roar boasted, "Don't forget that I am an ancient sacred beast and we have strong ancestry. Although I don't know, the method can be found within my inherited knowledge." After saying this, Little Roar closed his eyes and thought for a while. He very quickly opened his eyes and exclaimed, "I found it." One could only see him crawl beside Iron Claw Tiger's ear and whispered a few sentences. He suddenly said out loud, "You just have to voice out these few sentences and it will be done." "Will do, boss." Iron Claw Tiger nodded its head and waited for Little Roar to leave before it began to repeat the words that Little Roar had said. He appeared to be speaking in beast language since Sima Yu could not understand a single sentence. However, it fell in line with their dialect. She and Iron Claw Tiger had a contract appear between them. Iron Claw Tiger lay down in a show of allegiance. "You place your hand on its forehead," Little Roar mentioned as he stood at his side. Sima Yu stepped a single step forward and placed her hand on Iron Claw Tiger's head. She heard it say, "I agree that Sima Yu is my master and I will become her contracted beast. From henceforth I will protect her and will never leave her." "Sima Yu, are you willing to form a contract with me?" "I am willing," Sima Yu answered. After she said this, the contract began to shine brightly. The bright lights engulfed the both of them and gradually dissipated. It divided into two and entered their bodies. "Master." Iron Claw Tiger shouted excitedly as he felt the connection between himself and Sima Yu. We actually managed to form a contract." Sima Yu squatted down and looped around Iron Claw Tiger's neck. I already told you that forming a contract was possible." Little Roar boasted, "Yup, it's really all thanks to you this time." Sima Yu said. Iron Claw Tiger, through its contract link, managed to feel that Sima Yu not only had Little Roar, this type of ancient sacred beast, but also had another more powerful contracted beast. It had only felt it for a little while, but it started shivering from head to toe from feeling its spirit pressure. That one is the real boss, however, he's sleeping, so don't disturb him, Little Roar warned. Yes, I understand, Iron Claw Tiger said as he truly acknowledged its master in his heart. Do you have a name? Simayu said as she patted Iron Claw Tiger's head. No, I don't. My parents were already dead when I was born. Nobody in the tiger pack liked me, so nobody had ever given me a name. After that, they even chased me out, Iron Claw Tiger said. Simayu scratched Iron Claw Tiger's neck and said, Don't feel sad. From now on you follow us, and we are a family. Since you don't have a name, let's call you Yiguang. Thank you, master, Yiguang said as it rubbed itself lightly against Simayu's hand. Yeah. Guang, I want to train on Pu Luo mountain range for the next few days and need to look for a few spirit beasts that are weaker in quality to battle. Do you know where I can find some weaker quality and solitary spirit beasts? Simayu asked. I know, in the past when I was wandering around Pu Luo mountain range, I had already explored most of it. Yiguang nodded its head and pointed at a mountain range nearby. It said, most spirit beasts over there are by themselves. And that area over there has spirit beasts and tend to flock together. The surrounding spirit beasts have qualities that are a little lower. They are generally weak spirit beasts. The middle area and inner region have a higher quality, while the residents are mostly saint-ranked beasts. The inner areas even have a few divine-ranked beasts. Then is this area that we're in considered the outer area or middle region? Simayu asked. Master, this place can be considered the inner region, Yiguang replied. Inner region. Simayu blinked her eyes and said, This place is actually the inner area. But how come I haven't seen a single saint-ranked beast? Cough cough, this area is the inner region, Yiguang said. However, this is the fringes of the inner region. I've heard that it's unknown why, but the saint-ranked beasts never come here. As such, it is expected that Master has yet to see a single saint-ranked beast. Even though you have hung around this place for such a long time, then why would you be here? Simayu asked. I fought with a third-grade, saint-ranked beast and it was 2 levels higher than me. I was unable to defeat it, so I ran, Yiguang explained. However, I never expected that it would relentlessly pursue me to attack me, so I escaped in a panic without knowing where I was going. Before I realized it, I was already here. After that I encountered Little Roar. There's actually a spirit beast that dares to bully you. We will look for it and take revenge. Little Roar said, There's no need. Yiguang said. Simayu held onto Little Roar and said, If you go over like this, who will be the one who beat it up? Are you able to defeat it? If I wasn't injured, a tiny little third-grade, saint-ranked beast would not even be worth looking at. Little Roar said, Yiguang can't defeat it and you have no battle strength to speak of. I'm just a 5th-ranked spirit lord. Am I looking for death? Simayu said. Little Roar, Master is right. Right now, no matter who we look for, we wouldn't be able to defeat them. We would even endanger Master. Yiguang was clearly much more mature than Little Roar and said, Anyway, he didn't take advantage of me here. It wouldn't be too late for me to get revenge when I become stronger. Fine then. Little Roar thought about it and agreed. It would be troublesome to endanger Simayu. After all, her current strength was really too low. Let's go back. First, starting from tomorrow, we will look for spirit beasts to spar with. Little Roar, bring Yiguang into the spirit pearl. After saying this, she sent Little Roar and Yiguang into the spirit pearl and walked towards the cave at the canyon. Chapter 40. When Simayu returned to the cave this time round, Wu Lingyu was deep in meditation. However, once he sensed her presence, he came out of his meditative state and opened his eyes. You're back. Do you know where exactly we are now? Wu Lingyu asked her. Don't you know where we are? Didn't you come here on your own? She countered. I only know that we are in the Pu Luo mountain range. After arriving here, I encountered some things and now I'm not sure where we are exactly, he replied. We are in the innermost region of the Pu Luo mountain range, she replied. I was sent here by a teleportation array, but yet here you are, all intact, surviving on your own in the most dangerous region. You're really lucky to be alive and did not end up in some spirit beast's stomach. We're actually so deep in, he mumbled. Well, you've been here for such a long time already. Why don't you tell me, how did you survive out here? How is it that no spirit beasts have come to find trouble with you? They are very hostile to humans. Simayu was startled for a moment as she herself pondered on why she had never encountered any spirit beasts despite staying here for so long. Before, she had thought that there were no spirit beasts living out here. However, Yiguang had just told her that there were spirit beasts in the vicinity. Was it because of Crimson Flame's presence that had deterred the other spirit beasts? She knew that in this world, the hierarchy of spirit beasts were strictly revered. From little Roar's reaction and the leap in her cultivation advancement when she contracted with Crimson Flame, she had gathered that his identity was not so simple. It must have been the pressure he emitted that had scared the other spirit beasts in the vicinity, hence this entire canyon was so peaceful. Even the divine-ranked spirit beasts are so fearful of it. It made her wonder what kind of monstrous entity did she have a contract with? Wu Lingyu looked at Sima Yuyu, who was deep in contemplation, and asked, "Do you know the reason?" "How would I know?" She shrugged it off. "Don't forget that I'm a renowned trash. How would I know such a thing? Didn't you say that rumors aren't credible?" He flashed her an enigmatic smile. "Haven't you heard of the saying? To take something with a pinch of salt?" She glanced at him and brought out a pot as she got ready to prepare dinner. Since he was here, she wouldn't be able to cultivate now. Might as well prepare something to eat. "Didn't you just eat?" Wu Lingyu looked at her puzzled. She looked at him and said defensively, "Wasn't that all shared with you and little Roar? It's almost night soon. It's obviously time for dinner." After saying, she looked around and put the pot back into the interspatial ring. She left the cave and took all her cooking utensils out and started preparing dinner. Wu Lingyu thought about things for a bit, and he got off the bed and headed out and watched her prepare dinner. There was a pot that was simmering and in it was some rice grains with water. She was on the other side, frying up some dishes. "Are you like this at home too?" he asked. He had only heard her reputation as a trash, but did not know that she was so skilled in cooking. She was effortlessly frying up the dishes in a practiced manner. Her cooking skills were even better than the restaurants out there. "Yeah." She snuck a glance at him and was inwardly praising this world's medicines and elixirs. He had such a deep gnash across his stomach just the other day, and now here he was speaking to her as if it was nothing. This world's medicine was simply too incredible. If it was in her past world, one with such a wound would have to stay in bed for months to be doing what he was doing now. It merely took him a few hours and he could get out of bed. Wu Lingyu was leaning against the wall at the entrance and just watched her cook silently. After Sima Yuyu finished dishing up the food, she had prepared 2 portions and set them on the table. "Powerful cultivators like you have no need to eat. So if you don't want to eat, you can just leave it there, although I don't feel hunger. After watching you working so hard and pouring so much effort into this meal, I would like to try some." Under the silvery moonlight, the two of them ate out under the blanket of glittering stars, with the occasional roars from the spirit beasts echoing in the canyon as an accompaniment. Because it was rather late, she had only cooked porridge and 2 simple dishes. Although it was only 2 simple dishes, the taste was simply out of this world, and for someone who was rarely interested in food, he couldn't help himself but had a second bowl. After she finished her meal, she put her bowl down and looked at him. "I'll leave the dish washing to you. You want me to wash the dishes?" Wu Lingyu thought that he had heard wrong. Since young, he had never needed to do such menial tasks, and now in this lower realm, someone that he could crush easily like an ant was actually asking him to wash the dishes? "Of course, since I prepared the meal, it's only right that you wash the dishes," she answered in a straightforward manner, as if it was a matter of fact. "Don't forget that I'm akin to your employer. I asked you to accompany me and am even giving you a reward." He scoffed as he gently reminded her, "You said that you would give me 2 advancement pills, but what happens if you fall back on your promise? Why don't you give me half of the reward first so that we can officiate this employment?" She stretched her hands out and looked at him in earnest. Under the glowing moon, Wu Lingyu looked at the small hand in front of him that was as smooth as jade. He suddenly had the urge to reach out and hold this hand. He wanted to know how it felt to hold onto this hand, but it was only a passing thought that flashed by. He wasn't a person that was attracted by women and held no interest in them and their antics. He swiftly retrieved a small jade bottle from his own space and placed it in her hands before he walked back into the cave. Sima Yuyu pulled the stopper off and took a whiff as a gentle and mellow fragrance drifted out. "Little spirit," she called out. "What is it? Since your former master was an alchemist master, then you should be familiar with the various medicinal pills. You should be able to determine what medicinal pill this is, right? Can you help me identify and see if this is really an advancement pill?" Little Spirit took the jade bottle from her hands and took a look. "Yes, it is. Moreover, it's the highest grade advancement pill at that. All's good then." When she heard Little Spirit's answer, she smiled and happily went to wash the dishes, almost seemingly humming a tune while washing. After she had finished tidying everything up, she habitually went for a short walk after a meal and strolled about the canyon to aid her in the digestion of food. After her stroll, she returned to the cave. Wu Lingyu was lying in bed resting when he suddenly sensed a shadow cast upon him. He opened his eyes and snapped, "What are you doing?" "Move further in," Sima Yu gestured. "Why?" "I want to sleep and you are right in the middle of the bed, occupying the whole bed. Move over," saying which she sat down by the edge and started removing her shoes. "No," Wu Lingyu refused to budge. "Why?" She sat up and looked at him, puzzled. "I don't like to sleep with someone else as well, but this is my bed and it's the only one I have. May I ask if you have one?" "No," he replied. Usually all these basic necessities were all arranged for him. There was no need for him to bother about such trivial matters. That was why he never had any of such things like a bed in his own interspatial ring. "That won't do," she frowned. "Now there's only one bed. If we're not going to sleep together, where am I going to sleep? Or why don't you give me back my bed?" She continued to remove her other shoe, and when she saw that he did not move, she pushed him in. "Wu Lingyu, this is my bed." She yelled at him. "It's mine now," he replied in a faint voice. When he saw that she touched him, he subconsciously reached out and patted her hand away. Sima Yuyu's hand stiffened in a conditioned reflex and she thrust her hand out like a knife towards Wu Lingyu. From a simple push, everything escalated into a fight. Her moves were fast, accurate, and ruthless, but Wu Lingyu did not fare any worse and he kept up with her moves although he was lying down. Eventually, they fought to a standstill. When she saw that she could not win him, she stopped and immediately flipped on top of him with her two hands supporting her. She was face to face with him and saw that his entire face was black. She then roared at him. "Do you have any obsessive-compulsive disorder, or are you just crazy? It's just two men sleeping on the same bed. Is there a need for such a big reaction?" Chapter 41. Sima Yuyu was a little bit angry and glared maliciously at Wu Lingyu. Wu Lingyu saw the movement of her eyelashes and suddenly thought of the time where he saw a pair of sharp and focused eyes when he was conscious. "You're pressing on my wound." Sima Yuyu remembered that he had a wound on his stomach and got up from his body, saying, "This lord is a man, I have no interest in you." Quickly shift inside. Wu Lingyu didn't say anything this time and shifted in a little. Sima Yuyu took out a pillow from her interspatial ring and put it outside. She lay on her side and closed her eyes, choosing to ignore Wu Lingyu, although she was a female, but she did not care a single bit that they were sleeping on the same bed on the other side. He was still hesitating and his heart was a complete mess. Wu Lingyu could feel that Sima Yuyu was angry and he touched the wound on his stomach. Who knew that this brat would have such nimble skills for this kind of close-ranged attack? If he was not so experienced with combat, he would not be her opponent at all. He thought about the rumors that were spread about her. Did she really used to be a waste? If the rumors in the past were false, that would mean that she had really concealed herself very deeply when she had roared just now. That attitude was really quite powerful. However, whenever he watched her pretend to be a man, he always felt indescribably amused, thinking back on her declaration of zero interest in him. With her eyes that remained clear even as she said it, he subconsciously touched his face. Even in the upper realm, no matter where he went, he was the center of attention. There were countless girls who tried to gain his favor and affection by fawning all over him. Although he had never liked any of those girls, truth be told, he hated them even more, but never would he have thought that there would come a day where, in this place, there was actually a brat that roared her disinterest in such a loud voice. Although Sima Yuyu was sleeping, she had let little roar and the others pay attention to Wu Lingyu's condition just in case. Every time she slept, she was afraid that she would have dreams of her past once again. Even so, she still hoped that she would dream of them. However, this was yet another night of dreamless sleep until the sunrise. Wu Lingyu only managed to fall asleep very late into the night. He wasn't used to having anyone in such close proximity. Moreover, it was sharing a bed. Furthermore, it was a female. This made him extremely uncomfortable and only managed to sleep when it was close to the break of dawn. On the morning of the second day, Sima Yuyu rose from the bed. She looked at Wu Lingyu, who was still asleep, and quietly walked outside to prepare some food. After that, she quietly came back in and put the food on the table before leaving once again. Wu Lingyu waited for Sima Yuyu to leave before opening his eyes. He lay on his side and used his hands to prop up his head. Looking at the food that had been prepared on the table, he started to laugh. He rose from the bed and went to sit down at the side of the table, saying, "This brat really thinks that everyone is like her and needs to eat 3 meals a day without missing a single one." He sat down and ate 2 mouthfuls of porridge, saying, "This brat comes up with completely new dishes. Where does she get all these ideas from? However, this taste is really good. Wu Lingyu thought that this time Sima Yuyu had gone for a stroll and would come back soon. However, he had already waited for half a day and yet there was no sign of her when Sima Yuyu had left the cave in the morning. Yaguang shouted, "Master, the inside of the spirit pearl is amazing," Yaguang said as it looked excitedly at Sima Yuyu. "Yuyu, this guy has been bouncing around the spirit pearl ever since it came in. It's uncontrollably excited." Little roar crawled on Yaguang's head as it reported to Sima Yuyu. "This is the first time I've ever seen such a great place, so I got excited for a while," Yaguang said a little embarrassedly. "Anyway, if you all are fine with it, you will remain in there. It'll be good for you to get used to it," Sima Yuyu said. "Do you know how to get to the fringe peacefully? Master needs to look for spirit beasts in order to increase real combat ability?" Yaguang asked. "Yup, my current strength is insufficient. I also don't know many spirit skills. I want to start practicing from the weakest spirit beast," Sima Yuyu said. "There's no definite safe path from here to the outer region. However, if Little Roar is here, if we encounter any divine-ranked spirit beast, he just needs to release his aura. They will take it upon themselves to hide in a faraway place. Little Roar can just hide his aura once again once we've reached the outer region." "Yeah," Guang said. "In this case, let's move out." Sima Yuyu said, "Master, this place is still very far from the outer region. You can climb on my back and I can bring you there." As Guang said this, its body started to shake and it grew quite a lot. When spirit beasts reached the saint rank and above, they would gain the ability to camouflage. Before this, Yaguang would always camouflage itself. Sima Yuyu flipped onto Yaguang's body and said, "Let's go." When Yaguang received the order, it brought Sima Yuyu with it as it ran to the outer region. Using Little Roar's spirit pressure on the road, they quickly reached the fringe of the Pu Sua mountain range. They stopped at a mountain top because Yaguang was not like Little Roar, who could easily release or retract its own spirit pressure. Sima Yuyu was afraid that these spirit beasts would all go into hiding and stored it away in the spirit pearl. She only left Little Roar outside to accompany her. The number of spirit beasts on the Pu Luo mountain range was really a lot. They had just come down from the top of the mountain when they encountered a fire lizard. "Yuyu, that's a third-ranked spirit beast. With your current strength, it's suitable for you to battle it." Little Roar looked at the fire lizard's ranking as it said, "And it's also of the fire attribute. It's just in time for me to put my fire spirit to the test," Sima Yuyu said. The fire lizard saw Sima Yuyu and its eyes immediately shone brightly. It looked like a hungry dog who had seen a bone and wanted to eat her. This was because Sima Yuyu did not have any spirit power aura emitted from her body. That fire lizard assumed that she was just a normal person from the beginning. It did not plan to attack her using any spirit power and wanted to fling its long tail over. Instead, it went without saying that the spirit beast had an extremely hard exterior. This fire lizard had merely flung its tail, but the stone that Sima Yuyu was initially standing on had multiple cracks from that hit. "What shocking strength!" Sima Yuyu stood at a side, looking at the crack on the rock. She said with a little surprise, "It looks like this spirit beast has quite a strong body. This point is not bad." Upon encountering a strong enemy, she became especially excited. Since its strength was so huge in contrast to a person's weaker body, she decided to play on her strengths. "It just so happens that I haven't used my spirit power to fight any other opponents. You will be my first test subject." After saying this, she began to gather her internal spirit power and it slowly began to coalesce on her palm. The fire lizard saw that Sima Yuyu began to gather spirit power and started to cry out. This time, it used its tail and aimed it at her. It appeared to want to disrupt her movements. Sima Yuyu saw what the fire lizard was doing and quickly avoided it by dodging to the side. She had dangerously avoided that attack. If it was any other person, they would definitely be disrupted in the face of such an attack. Just like the time on the battle stage where Meng Ting had, because she had seen herself, prematurely released a ball of spirit power. However, even though she had only this moment of hesitation, she had not been disrupted and continued to gather spirit power on her hand. Her ball of spirit power grew bigger with the increase in quantity of her spirit power. She had already begun to feel the power contained in her hand. It was a feeling unlike in her past world where one would point a gun at someone. This kind of power made one feel that they would be able to temporarily split the sky. A red fireball also began to gather on the mouth of the fire lizard at the moment where it had thrown the fireball towards Sima Yuyu. She had also thrown the ball of spirit energy. Both of them collided in the air with a sound that sounded similar to a bomb explosion. Chapter 42. Wu Lingyu was meditating inside the cave as he slowly gathered his soul together. His master had mentioned it before, his soul was not complete and half of his soul was missing as the years went by and as he grew older. His body also became increasingly weak because that half of a soul was unable to support his increasingly strong body. Aside from his body growing increasingly weak, there was also another problem, which would be the fact that he would faint periodically. Furthermore, he would be unable to use any spirit power for a period of time after waking from his unconsciousness. He had to rely on the medicinal pill that his master prepared for him in order to slowly restore his soul. He practiced for a whole day, yet Sima Yu never came back. He stood up and went outside the cave only to realize that it was already dusk. Master, she wouldn't have left after you gave her the pill, right? Another contractual beast that Wu Lingyu had cautiously said as was floating in the contractual space. A similar thought momentarily flashed by as Wu Lingyu pondered on it for a while. However, thinking about her pair of clear eyes, he shook his head, saying, "She wouldn't." He had just spoken these words when Sima Yu's silhouette appeared at the other end of the canyon. Because she didn't expect that Wu Lingyu would be at the cave entrance, she stared blankly when she saw him. Wu Lingyu noticed that there was something off about the way Sima Yu was walking and asked indifferently, "You're hurt?" A shallow wound. Sima Yu's right hand covered her left arm. "Why are you outside?" "Came outside to check the time and see why you hadn't returned." Wu Lingyu replied, "Relax. I'm a man of character and my words carry weight. Since I've taken your reward, I want leave by myself." Sima Yu said this and walked past him to enter the cave. "This brat. Still so sensitive." Wu Lingyu smiled. Sima Yu returned to the cave and lay on the bed. Although she had eaten the medicinal pill, the wound of her arm still ached dully, reminding her of all that she had experienced today. This morning, when she had fought with the fire lizard, she had fully depended on the senses of her body and experiences of her previous life and assassin in order to win. When the fire lizard had died, Yiguang told her that people tended to bring the carcass back with them after killing any spirit beast because their bodies were relatively tougher and could be sold. Furthermore, there was a crystal core in their head. These crystal cores were a crucial item in pill concoction and could be sold for a good price, so she called out for Ling Long and got her to change into a dagger. She split the fire lizard open right there to look for the crystal core in its head. She also conveniently split the meat on its body. Although she had gained some spoils of war, her body also suffered a series of injuries. By the time she had finished doing all these, it was already afternoon. She made herself a simple lunch, but before she had finished eating, a golden leopard had found her by following the scent of her blood. This golden leopard was of a similar ranking to the fire lizard. However, it had lived much longer than the fire lizard, and so its battle ability was higher by quite a lot. Its agility was its best attribute, and it used it to its advantage. Because Sima Yu had already expanded quite a bit of spirit energy in the morning, she had yet to fully recover. It was only with much difficulty that she managed to win the golden leopard and even received a wound from it on her arm. And it even slammed her whole body to the ground. However, that beast still died in the end. She had battled 2 spirit beasts in one day and even received injuries. This allowed her to experience the strength of their combat abilities for the first time. Despite all that, she had still come out victorious. It was just that her body was tired beyond belief and her arm was still bleeding. She took out the medicine from her interspatial ring, however, because it had been eaten by that guy Wu Lingyu. She could not find a high-quality pill and could only randomly take a bottle out, so the effect was not that fast. She stood up and stored the carcass away in the spirit pearl and rested for quite a long time. She waited for her wound to close before calling out, "Yiguang Master, it was too dangerous just now. You should have called us out." Yiguang said the moment it came out, "This kind of danger doesn't count for much. It's not like a matter of life and death." Sima Yu said, "But, Master, you're injured." Yiguang said with heartache. Sima Yu patted Yiguang's head and said, "If a person wants to grow, one needs to learn independence. If one thinks of relying on others from the onset, it will be hard for a person to grow." Yiguang pondered over this for a moment and said, "Master, I understand. All right, I don't have any more strength left today to fight. Let's go back." After saying this, she sat on Yiguang's back and let him take her back to the canyon. Thinking back on the morning fight, Sima Yu felt a bit of excitement. She realized that she was much better at utilizing her Bodhi spirit power today than she was yesterday. It had been such a long time since she had fought a good battle that her entire body was cheering. However, She also knew that her body was currently insufficient and so had suffered injuries during battle. It looks like I not only need to engage in battles, I also need to train this body. Sima Yu said this and then closed her eyes and slept. Wu Lingyu took a stroll around the canyon and saw Sima Yu sleeping when he came back, gone out for an entire day, and even sustaining injuries when you came back. What exactly did you do today? Wu Lingyu muttered softly. When he arrived at the bedside, the originally sleeping Sima Yu opened her eyes for a while. She saw that it was him and continued to sleep. This brat is so alert. Wu Lingyu gave a sigh and removed his shoes. He came to the bed and lay down. It was unknown whether it was because he had not yet eaten today or because he was thinking about where she had gone today, but he was unable to sleep, however. He was already accustomed to having this brat beside him, even if they were sleeping on the same bed. He no longer rejected it like he did before, however. This was the first time that he had removed his halo and had interacted with someone else like an ordinary person. Since the beginning, he had always been revered, like the stars surrounding the moon. He was like the moon and he was constantly surrounded by admirers. Later on, when he had ascended to the position of the Holy Son of the Sage Pavilion, his identity became even more untouchable no matter where he went. He received more than a little respect and attention. Being saved by someone, eating and sleeping like a regular person, especially having to wait for someone to come back. It could be said that these days had experiences he never had before. It could be because of the change in environment. This was how he explained it to himself on the second day. Sima Yu woke up very early once again. The medicine had healed yesterday's wounds by quite a bit, so she went out to make some breakfast. She carried it back in, preparing to place it down to Wu Lingyu, but she saw that he had already woken up. You've woken up so early, Sima Yu said with a bit of astonishment. Couldn't sleep, so I woke up. Wu Lingyu said, You've already made breakfast? Yup. Sima Yu put the food on the table and said, Since you've already woken up, let's eat together. Wu Lingyu came to the side of the table and sat down, while Sima Yu placed his share of breakfast in front of him. It was in line with his expectations that today's breakfast was different from the one he had before. Sima Yu sat opposite him and didn't say a word, only immersing herself in eating. Wu Lingyu saw Sima Yu's appearance and, although she had male garb on, he strangely felt that he was sitting across a picturesque wife. Thinking of how he had actually thought of this term, his heart started to pound indescribably. Chapter 43. After dinner, Wu Lingyu saw that Sima Yu was preparing to head out. Where are you going? He suddenly asked. Into the mountains. She replied. I want to go with you. He quipped. What? She looked at him in surprise. Wu Lingyu had on the same bewildered expression as the two of them were stunned momentarily. Even he himself did not know why he said that. Well, since this time belongs to me, it's obvious that I want to know what you do outside. Wu Lingyu nodded his head, not sure if this was said to convince Sima Yu or himself. Sima Yu saw him smile and frowned. This smile is too fake. I'd rather you not smile. He touched his chin and said, Others have always said that my smile is like the sun and it brings them warmth and hope, and they can feel the glory. Those people were blind. She cut him off midway and shot him a superficial glance. Haha. Wu Lingyu let out a laugh and no longer kept up the pretense, and his whole aura changed. His smile turned from one of brilliant sunshine into one that was from the dark abyss. His whole expression took an instant switch as his whole demeanor changed, and his eyes that were innocent and pure changed to one that had a tinge of demonic charm, and his whole persona seemed to have changed into a completely different person. This should be the real you. Sima Yu, who looked at him indifferently and said, The guy before was like an unparalleled holy person and emitted resplendent hope and light when he spoke. However, the man before her now gave out a totally different and dangerous vibe. This contrast was simply too great. If she had not witnessed it herself, she wouldn't have believed that it was the one and same person. Now, can you take me along? He asked her with a trace of mirth in his eyes. She still hesitated. If she took him along, he would find out about her contract with Yiguang. Don't worry, whatever I see. I won't say a single word, he chortled. Since there is nothing to say. Sima Yu looked at him in the eye and her intuition told her that he wasn't lying. All right, you can come along, but I've got no time to take care of you. That doesn't matter, he smiled. Her strength was so low. For her to protect him was simply a joke. Once they stepped out of the cave, Sima Yu immediately summoned Yaguang and climbed onto his back. She then turned to Wu Lingyu and said, "Come on up." Wu Lingyu was inwardly surprised. This brat actually had the means to contract another spirit beast? Normally, those with her current level of power could only have one contract beast. Not to mention, this spirit beast that she just summoned was of a saint ranked. Such a feat could only be possible if she had a strong mind and soul. Sima Yu saw that he was staring in a daze and remembered that he didn't like to have close contact with other people. "If you're not going to come up, then go back." She smiled sweetly and turned away. Just as Yaguang was about to take off, she suddenly felt a warm pair of arms hugging her waist tightly from the back. "I can't use any spirit power now, so you have to let me hold on tightly to you now." Wu Lingyu leaned in and said it in a low and husky voice just beside her ear. Her face immediately darkened. Although she couldn't see him, she could still sense that he had on that aloof smile. "Then hold on tight, Yaguang. Let's go." Once he heard her command, he leapt into the air and followed the same route to the outer region as yesterday. Once they reached the fringe of the Pu Luo mountain range, Wu Lingyu looked at the surroundings and asked, "What are you doing here?" "You'll know it in a while, but I'll need you to leave me further for a bit. I won't be responsible for anything if you get injured." He was baffled at her request, but very soon he found out the reason she was here for. This time round, she encountered a rattlesnake, one that was 2 ranks higher than yesterday's spirit beasts. If she had met it yesterday, she would most likely have lost. But after going through the 2 battles yesterdays, she was more skilled in using her spiritual powers and also gained more insight into battling spirit beasts. Wu Lingyu leaned lazily against a tree while he watched the battle with interest. He was just a slight distance away and could watch the battle very clearly, as he saw the intense battle going on between that small human and huge spirit beast several times. There were near misses, and the rattlesnake had came very close to landing its bite on Sima Yu. She had narrowly escaped each time by a hair's breadth. As the battle dragged on, she got more used to fighting with this body and utilizing her spiritual powers. She felt her body seemed to be more attuned to how she wanted it to move, and her hits and dodges progressed smoothly, and she could avoid all the vicious attacks by the rattlesnake much easier now. In the initial stage, she was seen narrowly escaping with her life. Now it was clear what she was doing. She was actually using this snake as a sparring opponent. With her dagger in hand, she deftly leapt into the air and gracefully dodged in midair, flipping her body swiftly, and arrived behind it and stabbed the dagger into its huge body. The rattlesnake was furious as it felt a sharp pain on its back, and it twisted in agony as it felt its strength drain away at an astonishing speed. However, it refused to submit. It relentlessly tried to throw her off its back as it twisted and wreathed about furiously. Sima Yu did not expect that. Despite stabbing her dagger into the death point of the snake, it still had so much fight in it, and it trashed about, trying to best to fling her off its back. She then firmly gripped her legs around the snake, but she had squeezed them so tightly that the scales had cut through her pants and deep into her legs. The rattlesnake made another attempt as it straightened its whole body, trying to get her to fall off. She immediately grabbed its body with her left hand and mustered all her strength, and she stabbed into the snake. This time, she had used all her strength, and the rattlesnake could only struggle a few times before it slumped and crashed onto the ground. After such a bitter struggle, she felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, and she followed the snake and slumped onto the ground. Wu Lingyu slowly walked over and looked at the brat who was playing with death just moments ago, was sprawled in a puddle of blood, panting heavily. She had completely shocked him with her tenacity and battle prowess, even staking her own life to practice. He started to see her in a different light, as all the previous notions of her being a wastrel was completely swept away. "Are you all right? It won't kill me." Sima Yu flipped over and she lay all sprawled out as she lay on the ground. She had just battled the rattlesnake for more than an hour, and she could no longer feel her 4 limbs, not wanting to move at all at that moment. Hearing what Sima Yu said, Wu Lingyu laughed out lightly and said, "If you're still not dead, then get up. If you continue to lie there, other spirit beasts will smell the scent of blood and come running here." Sima Yu glanced at Wu Lingyu and drew in a deep breath before she pushed her hands on the ground and stood up. Wu Lingyu stood on one side and looked at that wretched figure to ask, "Where do we go now?" Sima Yu retrieved the rattlesnake and kept it away before she turned to look in all directions to finally say, "There." Wu Lingyu did not comment and just followed her downhill, where they saw a little brook at the foot of the mountain. "Look, you just sit here and have a rest. I am going to take a bath and you must not peep. Sima Yu pushed Wu Lingyu to sit down below a tree as she spoke while she went around to the back to take her bath at the brook. Before she dipped herself into the water, she summoned Yu Guang and the others to help her stand guard. Although she looked outwardly like a male, but she was a woman through, and if that fellow was bored from having nothing better to do and came here and saw her, she would have lost out big time. Wu Lingyu sat below the tree and he could hear the sound of water behind him as he leaned back against the tree. He had not sat upon the ground for a long time and he was feeling rather carefree and relaxed. It's fine, take it as indulging himself just once. He will allow himself to be more uninhibited here and he can go back to being a holy son when he gets back to the Sage Pavilion. Chapter 44. When Sima Yu came back from her bath, she saw Wu Lingyu leaning against the tree. He appeared to be smirking. You're done bathing. The shine in his eyes were blocked by the shadows. Wu Lingyu opened his eyes and asked, Yup, Sima Yu unenthusiastically replied. She asked, You didn't peek, right? What's there to peek at? Wu Lingyu asked, Her figure was good, okay? It had just yet to develop. What are we doing now? Wu Lingyu asked, I'm hungry, I'm going to find something to eat. Sima Yu said. Wu Lingyu parted his lips slightly. Eating again? Sima Yu didn't care about his reaction. Coming to the riverbank, she took out the snake that she had just killed, slicing it into portions with her knife. She kept the leftovers and took a piece of it to wash using the river water. You plan to eat this thing? Wu Lingyu walked over and saw Sima Yu handling the snake meat with furrowed brows. Sima Yu glanced at him and said, If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. Anyway, you won't feel hungry even if you don't eat. After she had thrown Wu Lingyu off with her words, he stood at the side and didn't talk anymore. After Sima Yu finished washing the snake meat, she took out a pot and put in various ingredients before placing it on top of the fire to stew some snake soup. Then she used some skewers to barbecue the rest of the snake meat. After a little while, the aroma of the barbecued meat wafted over, and she prepared to season it before barbecuing it for a little longer, finally putting it on a plate at the side. After waiting for all the meat to finish barbecuing, she put the barbecue on the table. Do you want to eat it or not? In any case, he was now her employer, so she had to at least go through the motions of asking him. Wu Lingyu apparently looked at the snake meat with some distaste, but after some hesitation, he still came to the table to pick up that barbecued meat to eat. While eating the barbecued meat, the snake soup was also pretty much done. Sima Yu put their 2 portions into 2 bowls, and the delicious smell caused Wu Lingyu to go back on his decision, which was initially dead set against eating snake meat. You look like you really know how to cook? Wu Lingyu asked as he finished drinking all the soup in his bowl. You know that I used to be unable to cultivate, Sima Yu said, so I always had to eat eventually. I learned how to cook. The general's residence doesn't have a cook? Can the average chef cook as well as I do? No, then that's that. Anyway, I really enjoy cooking after eating. She kept all the things and continued to look for any spirit beasts who were alone in order to continue practicing. At night, they didn't return to the cave in the canyon, choosing to look for a cave outside to rest instead. Anyway, she had only returned there yesterday because Wu Lingyu was there since he had come along with her today. There was no need to go back there. After that, for the next half of a month, they never went back to that canyon. Sima Yu had pretty much spent her days fighting spirit beasts while Wu Lingyu would go along with her occasionally, choosing to cultivate in the cave alone at other times. After half a month, Sima Yu could feel that Wu Lingyi's strength was recuperating quickly. There were even times where he would inadvertently leak out some aura that actually caused her to be afraid. However, no matter how strong he became, she was fine as long as she never allowed him to interfere in her battles. It was just that it appeared as if this guy never planned to get involved in the first place. After half a month, Fire Qilin came back but was unable to find Wu Lingyu at the cave in the canyon. He relied on its contractual link to look for them at the surrounding areas. Sima Yu was currently battling a spirit beast, but when the Fire Qilin came over, he had immediately caused that spirit beast to faint. Yu, that's a shape-shifting beast, Little Roar notified her from the Spirit Pearl shape-shifting beast. Sima Yu looked at Fire Qilin in shock as she said. Fire Qilin saw Sima Yu looking over, and she was immediately found it hard to breathe, as she was crushed by the invisible spirit pressure that was coming from his body. Was that his contractual beast? Not only was his own strength extremely powerful, he also had such a powerful contractual beast. What kind of identity did he have? Yu, I know who he is now, Little Roar said. You know him? Have you met him before? Why didn't you say so earlier, Sima Yu asked with surprise. When did I meet him? If I'd really met him, I would have remembered it long ago, Little Road said. It's just that I recognize his contractual beast. That shape-shifting beast? You are acquainted with it? Something like that, Little Roar said. That's Fire Chilin, Fire Chilin? Isn't that the ancient divine beast from the legends? Sima Yu recalled a time where she had seen the description of some ancient sacred spirit beasts in a book. One of them was the Fire Chilin. That's right. It's an ancient divine ranked spirit beast like me, Little Roar said. Furthermore, it had actually appeared on the mainland. A person who is able to have a contract with it must be the holy son of the Sage Pavilion. Now that the Fire Chilin has appeared, that Wu Lingyu is definitely the holy son of the Sage Pavilion. What kind of power is the holy son of the Sage Pavilion? It sounds very upright, Sima Yu said. The holy son of the Sage Pavilion has the power to govern the world no matter where it is. There is a place for the holy son of the Sage Pavilion. It's equivalent to the god that governs this world, Little Roar continued to say. So you're saying that this guy actually has a very respectable identity? Sima Yu touched her chin while looking at Fire Qilin and Wu Lingyu. The holy son of the Sage Pavilion puts on a pure and holy appearance to appear in front of the masses. I've heard that the holy son is the most pure and holy male. It really commands respect. Little Roar said, pure and holy? How come I can't see it? Sima Yu said, I feel as if his body has a smell of some kind of disease. On the other side, Wu Lingyu and Fire Qilin were having a conversation. Master, I can't find that item, Fire Qilin said. I've already scoured the entire Pu Luo mountain valley, but I didn't catch a single whiff of its scent. Could it be that my feeling was wrong? Wu Lingyu said, Master, what should we do now? Fire Qilin asked, since there's nothing, we can only return back upstairs for now. We just received a summon from the palace hall today. It's calling everyone to rush back. Wu Lingyu said, is anything the matter? Not sure. It's possible that the old guy has found another woman from the prophecy. Wu Lingyu said, we should go back first to take a look beyond anything. Okay. After the two of them finished their conversation, Fire Qilin went back to his contractual space. Wu Lingyu looked over at Sima Yu hinting at her to come over. Sima Yu thought about the fact that he was her employer and so walked over to Wu Lingyu. We're leaving now, Wu Lingyu said simply. You're done? Sima Yu blinked, looking at Wu Lingyu excitedly. Wu Lingyu saw Sima Yu's excited appearance and his heart felt uncomfortable for some reason. She really didn't want him around to that extent? Are you very happy? Of course. Although it's great for me to stay here and cultivate, there are still some important things that I have to do. Oh, Sima Yu had yet to finish speaking when she had been drawn into an embrace. What kind of things do you have to do that are more important than accompanying me? Wu Lingyu looked at Sima Yu with an evil grin on his face, his eyes churned with rage. Are you crazy? Sima Yu didn't understand why Wu Lingyu had suddenly become this way and used both hands to push against his chest. Let me go. Crazy? Maybe I really have gone crazy. After speaking, he imprisoned Sima Yu's arms and she had been wrapped in his embrace. Also, amidst all her confusion, he bent down and planted a kiss upon her lips. Chapter 45. Their lips touched. They were soft and slightly cold. Wu Lingyi's eyes narrowed in delight. This feeling was better than he had imagined. MMPH Sima Yu took advantage when he was not paying attention and bit him on the lips. After that, she crouched down and slipped out of his imprisonment. Are you crazy? She stood far, far away, looking guardedly at Wu Lingyu. Wu Lingyu touched his lips. He had already smelled the scent of his own blood. You really bit me viciously, he muttered. His face had no trace of trying to calm down, of course. Sima Yu glared at him and said, this lord really meant it. I have no interest in men like you. Oh? How come I've heard of you relentlessly pursuing men without letting go, paying attention to all kinds of men? Wu Lingyu said as he wiped away the blood on his lips. Those were all rumors. I've already told you that you can't believe in rumors. This lord here loves beautiful ladies. Sima Yu could lie without even blushing. Hee. Looking at the state that Sima Yu was in, he couldn't help but laugh. You like men? Sima Yu sized him up. After that, it was as if she had heard it from some unknown places. She said, you're not straight. Wu Lingyu saw Sima Yu's straightforward gaze and his face sunk. What did you say? I don't care whether or not you're straight, since you're going to leave this place anyway. You should give me my other half of the reward now. After that we can both go our separate ways, never to meet again. Never meet again? Wu Lingyu moved his body slightly only to appear beside Sima Yu. She had been completely unable to see his movement clearly. She could only feel that she was being crushed by his power and could not move her body. Wu Lingyu took out a jade bottle and pulled Sima Yuyu's hand up, placing it in her palm. After that, he moved beside her ear and said, "Next time, remember to change the scent on your body or else those spirit beasts of a higher right. You won't be able to deceive their noses." Woman Sima Yuyu froze. He knew that she was a woman. Wu Lingyu looked at Sima Yuyu's expression with satisfaction, smiling as he gave her another kiss on the lips. After that, he said, "Although I don't like women who cry and whine, since we've already shared the same bed for so many nights, I'm not someone who won't take responsibility. I'll just have to force myself to acknowledge you as my woman." Sima Yuyu glared at Wu Lingyu. This guy actually knew everything, but he had nonchalantly shared the bed with her. Now he had actually said she was his woman now or something. If she was not being imprisoned, she would definitely stab her dagger straight into his heart. Wu Lingyu saw the rage in her eyes and smiled happily. He stretched out his hand to touch her smooth face, saying, "You're cute even when you're angry. I hope that the next time we meet, you would have grown a bit. See you next time, and remember to wear some female clothing for me. I'll wear rags for you to see." Wu Lingyu realized that he actually really liked to see her get angry. He took off the illusion ring from her finger and her appearance changed. At the very least, she was no longer flat-chested. "So you actually do have something there." He nodded his head approvingly, as he used his hands to cop a feel bastard. "Rogue, cursing me? I'm just measuring their volume," Wu Lingyu said. After that, he took out another ring and pricked Sima Yuyu's finger. He dripped a drop of blood on it, and put it on her after waiting for the drop of blood to enter it. He turned the knob on the ring and Sima Yuyu turned into the appearance of a man once again. Watching Wu Lingyu put the ring on her finger, Sima Yuyu suddenly thought of how people swore their love to each other in holy matrimonial in her old world. This was similar to the groom putting the ring on his bride. Wu Lingyu looked at Sima Yuyu's current appearance with satisfaction, saying, "Like this, even if you encounter a higher-ranked spirit beast, they won't be able to sniff out the female scent from your body. All right, that old guy is pestering me again, so I have to go. Remember, you're my woman. You're not allowed to flirt with other men. Don't attract any random bees. Remember to think of me." After saying this, he gave her another kiss on the lips. "Woman, don't forget our agreement. Remember to wear female clothing for me next time. You asshole. Ha ha ha. If you leave this place, there's a city nearby. That place has a teleportation array that you can take back to the capital." Looking at the current state that Sima Yuyu was in, he laughed twice more and retreated to a space, with both hands forming a seal. Suddenly, the space around him twisted and moved according to his hands and looked as if it had been ripped open. A black passage appeared in front of him. When Wu Lingyu appeared in front of that passage, he turned his body to look over at Sima Yuyu, saying, "Woman, remember you can't let other people know that you are a woman, or else if something happens to you, I won't be able to go and save you." After saying this, he turned his body and entered that passage. After he entered it, the passage closed as if it had never appeared in the first place. Damn. After Wu Lingyu had left, Sima Yuyu regained control over her body. When she thought of the feeling she had of being imprisoned, she was incomparably angry. Even if he wanted to kill her, she was completely defenseless and had absolutely no strength to retaliate. However, this also sparked her fighting spirit. Wouldn't killing one's enemies based on a type of feeling be considered the strength of an expert? She looked at the ring on her finger and thought of the fact that he knew she was a female and had even kissed her 3 times. She really felt the impulse to go and kill him. "Just you wait. If I don't manage to take my revenge, I'll take on your surname." Sima Yuyu had just entered the new place when she roared loudly. This was the first kiss of 2 lifetimes, but it had actually been snatched away. She raged just thinking about it. Yuyu looking at Sima Yuyu about to explode from rage. Little Roar timidly shouted from the spirit pearl, "What do you want?" Sima Yuyu said huffily, "That, I heard the sound of many spirit beasts running. If you continue to linger here." Little Roar had yet to finish speaking when she saw countless spirit beasts run out from behind the mountain. She used all of her strength to run. That wave of spirit beasts had at least 100 of them. It must be the comrades of the rhinoceros that she had just killed. They must have smelled the scent of his blood and had come to take revenge. Damn. Sima Yuyu could not afford to grumble anymore. She could only take to her heels and sprint off, running while asking Yaguang to come out. She waited for it to turn back to its original body. then rode on its back, running out of Pu Luo mountain range. The space tunnel opened in another world and Wu Lingyu stepped out of it, thinking about how furious Sima Yuyu was just now. He could not help but break out into a smile. He called out Fire Qilin and let him return to his original body. Before sitting on him, Master, your actions just now were quite unlike you, Fire Qilin said as he flew. You couldn't possibly be thinking of making her your woman, right? Fire Qilin asked. Why not? Wu Lingyu asked. But she's way too different from you. Even the women inside the palace are better than her by at least a few thousand times. How could you think she's good enough? Fire Qilin could not understand. He had only left for half a month, but his master, who had never used to even stand close to a woman, had become like this. This lord likes the things that she cooks, Wu Lingyu said slowly. If Sima Yuyu had heard him, she would definitely be filled with regret that would transcend generations. If she knew this earlier, she wouldn't cook anything for him. Wu Lingyu laughed. Actually, he also had no idea why he would tell her that he wanted her to become his woman. However, when he had said it just now, he had no evil intent or feelings, as if it was something that just had to be done. The little obstinate face, unyielding bravery in the face of danger, ability to barbecue such amazing food. Every single part of her was different from the other women he had met. In these little ways, she had found a place in his heart. His woman, thinking about it, he was filled with sweet pleasure and could not help but smile. This form of address was really not bad. Chapter 46. A luxurious palace located on the top of a mountain. The marble palace walls shone with white radiance under the sunlight. Looking incomparably majestic and holy, Wu Lingyu sat on Fire Qilin and descended right in front of the main door of the palace. The gatekeepers immediately knelt, saying respectfully, "Greetings to the Holy Sun." Wu Lingyu smiled lightly as he nodded his head, saying gently, "You may rise." "Thank you, Holy Sun." The gatekeepers stood up and returned to their positions. "Where is Pavilion Lord?" Wu Lingyu asked. "The Lord is at Clear Wind Palace Hall together with the other branch Pavilion Lords, discussing some affairs," the gatekeeper replied. "The Lord instructed us that if the Holy Sun returned, to tell him to look for them in the Clear Wind Palace Hall." "I got it." Wu Lingyu waved his hand and entered through the palace door. He walked towards the Clear Wind Palace Hall. All the people kowtowed towards him whenever he walked by in reverence. "Holy Sun, Pavilion Lord has been waiting," woman dressed in white said as she saw Wu Lingyu. "Please follow this servant." The lady led Wu Lingyu inside, and the people in the main hall said, "Pavilion Lord, the Holy Sun has returned." A man clad in black sat on the seat above. His white chongpao was concise, but it was not simple. His handsome face looked like he was not more than 30 years old. But he had already an old man who had lived for more than 1,000 years. "Lingyu greets Pavilion Lord." Wu Lingyu bowed slightly. "Lingyu, you're returned. I am currently discussing some affairs with these other lords. You can return to your seat." Pavilion Lord nodded as he said, "Yes, Pavilion Lord." Wu Lingyu walked to his seat and sat down. "All right, let us continue," Pavilion Lord said. "Where were we?" In response to Pavilion Lord, "We were talking about the incident where the Shiman clan was exterminated," a female Pavilion Lord said. "Right? Have we properly investigated this incident of the extermination of the Shiman clan?" Pavilion Lord asked. "We have finished investigations. The perpetrators were the ones who have always been at war with them, the Zhongzheng clan," the branch Pavilion Lord said. "We do not have to bother about the previous issues of the clan. However, I've heard that the Shiman clan has a daughter called Shiman Yuyu. Her innate gift is extremely high. Is that the woman whom the higher-ups want us to look for?" The Pavilion Lord asked. In reply to Pavilion Lord, "The man who was sent to investigate this matter has returned. Shiman Yuyu has a strong innate talent as well as a multifaceted spirit master. However, she only has 3 facets and does not possess the 4 different facets that was rumored," the branch lord said. "Furthermore, she has already been killed by the Zhongzheng clan. This point can absolutely be verified." Wu Lingyu sat at his place, listening to them talk about Shiman Yuyu. He could not help but to think of Sima Yuyu. Thinking of how he had thoroughly enraged her before he had left, he could help but break out into a smile. Since that is the case, there is no longer any need to care about the affairs of the Shiman family. Pavilion Lord said, yes, Pavilion Lord, that man said. However, when we were investigating, we found out that the Zhongzheng family has a little miss called Zhongzheng Hanyu. She's a rare talent. I feel that I could let her enter my sage pavilion. Could she be the woman from the prophecy? Pavilion Lord asked. No, she's a dual-faceted spirit master with the gold and fire attributes. That branch, Pavilion Lord said. She has already been tested by our own people and they have confirmed that she is a dual-faceted spirit master. Since she's a dual-facet spirit master, you can let her enter. Pavilion Lord waved his left hand as his right hand rested on the armrest and leaned his hand against his forehead and said, is there anything else you want to raise? Pavilion Lord, during my administration I discovered a four-faceted spirit master. Another branch, Pavilion Lord, who had a cold disposition, said, you're certain that she has four facets? Yes, I am, Pavilion Lord. That is a 10-year-old female child who has just begun to cultivate. During the clan ability testing, it was found that she possessed four facets, no matter whether or not she is the woman from the prophecy. We cannot let this go, Pavilion Lord said slowly, as if a person's life was worth nothing to him. I have already called for men with superior skills to bring her to take on our clan name and bring her into the Sage Pavilion. I wanted to give a report to Pavilion Lord. Before executing her, good, it is the will of the higher-ups. In order to avoid the killing of 1,000, we cannot let a single one go. As long as they are female with 4 or more facets, we cannot let them go. Do you understand? Pavilion Lord warned. Understand. Wu Lingyu sat wordlessly at his place and he laughed coldly in his heart. This was the pure and holy Sage Pavilion. In their eyes, the lives of others were worth less than a stalk of grass. All for the sake of a prophecy from who knows where. After a while, after they had finished their discussions, only Pavilion Lord and Wu Lingyu, these two people, were left. How come you went out for so long this time? Pavilion Lord asked Wu Lingyu. In reply to Pavilion Lord, I heard that there were movements in Yilin continent, so I went down to take a look. Wu Lingyu replied, then did you meet any suspicious people? No, Wu Lingyu said confidently. Yilin continent is the most inferior continent here. Looking for a talent is more difficult than reaching for the sky. If one was talking about a suspicious woman, then he would definitely think of Sima Yuyu. However, he had no plans to say anything about this. Even if this is the case, you shouldn't be careless, Pavilion Lord warned. I understand. Wu Lingyu lowered his head slightly, looking as if he had taken to heart what he had said. How is your body? Pavilion Lord asked in concern. In reply to Pavilion Lord, it is the same as it always way. My master said that he is still looking for a way for me to fix this problem, Wu Lingyu replied. Pavilion Lord took out a jade bottle from his interspatial ring and said, this is a pill that I have tasked others to research about. It nourishes the soul greatly. Take it and use it well. Wu Lingyu rose, both hands extended towards the jade bottle, saying, many thanks for Pavilion Lord for your concern. You are the holy son that I have personally chosen and you are my successor. It is a given for me to show you some care. Pavilion Lord smiled lightly. If there's anything else in the future, just get the people in the lower realm check it out for you. There's no need to go there personally. I understand. All right, you should go and rest, Pavilion Lord said as he waved his hand. All right, then I will head downstairs first. Go, remember to use that medication, Pavilion Lord urged. Yes, I will go back. And use it well, Wu Lingyu said. Lingyu takes his leave. Wu Lingyu turned around and walked out with large strides. When he was at the entrance, he heard the sound of Pavilion Lord's voice. Holy Maiden will be coming back from above these few days. When that time comes, bring a few people to receive her. Thinking about that annoying woman whose skin was thicker than the concrete wall and always stuck around him, Wu Lingyu went stiff. However, he still turned around to reply, yes. Meanwhile, in the Puluo mountain valley in Yilin continent, Sima Yuyu miserably sat on Yaguang as they escaped. She's originally thought that just being able to leave the mountain valley would be good. But who would have thought they would chase her for several hundreds of kilometers? As for that nearby city that Wu Lingyu had told her about, it was only after riding on Yaguang's back, running for half a day when she finally saw it. We've ran so far. This is his idea of a nearby city? Sima Yuyu placed Yaguang back into the spirit pearl. Next time, if I ever meet him again, I will definitely tear out his skin. She entered the city. Everyone saw her battered appearance, but they did not laugh at her. In fact, they even expressed some kind of admiration. May I ask, how do I get to the Spirit Masters Guild? Sima Yu pulled a passerby to ask, "Great master, just continue walking on straight. After crossing 2 streets, just turn left and you will be there." The passerby, who had been pulled to a stop, replied with veneration, "I got it, thank you." It was the first time that Sima Yu had been looked at with a gaze of admiration, and it felt a bit strange. What she didn't know was that the people of this place could tell at one glance that she had come from Puluo mountain range. A person who dated to enter the Puluo mountain range alone must definitely be a powerful expert. Everyone immediately had the posture of reverence. She followed that person's instructions to get to the Spirit Masters Guild. That was a place that would have that teleportation array back to the capital. Thinking about the person who had pushed her, she broke into a sneer. She was about to go back, so she should properly prepare her own revenge. Chapter 47. The Spirit Masters Guild comprised of numerous Spirit Masters, and they were in charge of managing the affairs of all the Spirit Masters on the continent. The Spirit Masters were bound by the rules of the guild, however, in return, they also gained protection from the guild. Similarly, all the other professions also have their own guilds. Alchemists had their Alchemists Guild, Armament Masters would have their Armament Masters Guild, and Beast Tamer Masters had their Beast Tamer Masters Guild. And even the mercenaries had their Mercenaries Guild. All these guilds worked together and did not work in isolation. Each guild would be in charge of the different resources, and every city's teleportation array would be located at the Spirit Masters Guild. When Sima Yu walked into the Spirit Masters Guild, the person inside saw her tattered clothing and immediately felt a deep sense of veneration. "Is there anything that I can help you with?" The girl at the counter bowed down slightly as she asked, "I wish to use the teleportation array to return to the capital city," Sima Yu said as she looked around the guild. It could be because the area was relatively small, so the Spirit Masters Guild and was decorated simply. The counter was old and worn, leaving only one girl inside who had bent her head down to work. It was only when she had seen her walk in that she raised her head to inquire what help she needed. That girl smiled lightly and said, "Sorry, we don't have a teleportation array that sends you directly to the capital." "You don't?" Sima Yu was puzzled. "Didn't Wu Lingyu tell her that they had one?" "We used to have one, but it was damaged recently and we haven't had an array master to fix it yet," that girl said with a slight flush of embarrassment. "However, we have one that will send you to a city near the capital, and from there, you can transfer and use their teleportation array to head on to the capital. Don't worry, this way would not spend too much time or gold coins." "Okay then, send me to that place first," Sima Yu said. "Please fill up this form first and pay 5 gold coins." The girl handed a piece of paper to her. Sima Yu looked at that piece of paper and saw that it was just some fundamental information. With a brush of the hand, it would be done. After that, she took out 5 gold coins from her interspatial ring and placed it on the counter. The girl put the gold coins into the drawer and took the piece of paper without even looking at it as she said, "Please follow me." Sima Yu followed her into a hall behind the Spirit Masters Guild and saw the mark of the array in the middle. The wall contained various city names. "Please stand on the array." She gestured over to the array in the middle. Sima Yu stood on it and saw the girl walk over the right side of the wall and press the name of a city. "This is Chariot City, which is on the right of the capital city. Going to the capital from there should be convenient," the girl explained to Sima Yu. Sima Yu nodded. At this time, the array suddenly gave off a flash of light, similar to the time when she had seen the array in the cave. The inscriptions and runes were filled with light, and she disappeared within the array. The girl saw that all was normal with the array and then lowered her head to look at the form in her hands. She saw the name filled in the box and was shocked. "Sima Yu, that waist?" She raised her head to look towards the array. However, Sima Yu was already gone. "There's no way it would have been that waist." The girl shook her head as she said, "That waist cannot cultivate at all, and the person just now had an interspatial ring. He was definitely a spirit master. It must be a person who has the same name." The girl shook her head as she left the hall. Sima Yu felt her body being squeezed by the immense pressure, and she couldn't help but closed her eyes tightly while she was being teleported. After an unknown period of time, only when she felt the pressure release could she open her eyes. This time, she had already appeared in another place. This came from the Puluo mountain range? How come there's only one person? "Hey, quickly wake up, don't hog the teleportation array. There are people from other places that will be sent here." Sima Yu heard an astonished voice and crawled up from the teleportation array, mustering her energy as she groggily stood aside. It hadn't been half a minute since she left when the teleportation array flashed with light again. After the flash of light, 3 people appeared in the hall. Those 3 people glanced at the surroundings wordlessly and immediately left. After they had left, the teleportation array lit up yet again. This time, only 2 people appeared. In a similar fashion, they glacéed at the surroundings and left. Sima Yu saw that the others were standing, and it appeared as if she was the only one who was lying down when she arrived at this place. "Hey, what are you still doing here? Aren't you leaving yet?" A youth in his teens berated her when he saw that she was just staring blankly at the teleportation array. "I want to use the teleportation array to go to TH Capital." "Sima Yu said, you want to go to the capital?" The youth looked at Sima Yu twice before saying, "When you go out, turn left into the courtyard, go there." Sima Yu had no idea why he had told her to go to that place, but she still followed his instructions obediently and went there. She currently had the pressing desire to return home. She couldn't be bothered with those people who had bad attitudes. After she stepped out of the teleportation hall, she saw a large garden outside. It was a picturesque sight as she saw the beautiful landscape filled with a huge variety of rare and exotic flowers, a complete contrast from the Pu Luo mountain range's simple spirit masters guild. She saw a stalk of foxtail grass, a plant she had came across a few times in her past world. She went forward and broke off a portion and placed it in her mouth, following the youth's instructions to head to the courtyard at the side. To her surprise, there was an extremely long queue, so many people. Sima Yu gasped as she grudgingly went over and stood right at the back of the line, slowly shuffling along with the group of people. She had initially thought that this place was just for her to fill out the form, but she quickly realized that the people who went in never came out. She could see that there were occasional flashes with white rays of light. It turns out that the teleportation array for entering and leaving is not the same in this place. She touched her chin and muttered, "This teleportation array looks quite fun. In the future, I should go and learn it. If I was able to create my own teleportation array, that it would be so convenient." Ha ha. When the man in front of her heard what she said, he started to laugh out loud. The fellow behind her pat her shoulders, saying, "Little brother, being an array master is not something that you can become just by thinking about it. Is it very difficult to become an array master?" Of course, not everyone can become an array master. It's as difficult as becoming an alchemist or a weaponsmith master. Actually, it might even be a little harder because there might be an alchemist out of 1,000 spirit masters, but it's uncertain as to whether or not there will be an array master. That fellow said, "Really, then isn't become an array master really amazing?" Sima Yu's eyes shone. If the person that she was familiar with in her past life knew this, she would definitely be exceedingly interested. Haha, in any case, it's very difficult. Little brother, if you're that ambitious, then try your best at it. If you manage to succeed at that time, you will be able to get anything your heart desires. That fellow didn't have any intentions of making fun of Sima Yu, only encouraging her as he pat her back. Hee, thank you, elder brother. Sima Yu smiled as she said, "Not a problem, try your best, little brother." The fellow encouraged, "All right, where do you want to go?" "The capital," Sima Yu replied. "This place is not far from there. It's such a waste of gold coins to use a teleportation array to get there. Do you know anyone from the capital?" That man asked. His random chatter gave Sima Yu a scare. If she used a teleportation array to go back, she would be sent directly to the Spirit Masters Guild in the capital. The people here may not recognize her, but the people over there would definitely recognize her. Wouldn't the fact that she had become a spirit master become exposed? "Ah, I just remembered that I have something to do. I'll head off first. Goodbye, elder brother." After thinking it through, she left the queue and exited the Spirit Masters Guild. As she walked down the street, she grabbed a man to ask him the way to the capital. That man not only told her how, but also told her that she could take a beast carriage to head there for only 15 gold coins. As such, Sima Yu went to look for a place that rented beast carriage and rented one, letting the other party send her to the capital. It was a journey that did not even take a day. It was clear that this city was really very close to the capital. As the clouds started to turn pink and a beautiful orange glow covered the skies, she had finally reached her destination. It was almost night, but she had made it back on time outside the city. She paid the reward and let the other party return. She looked at the majestic city wall and smiled lightly. "Grandfather, brothers, and those who had schemed to hurt me, I, Sima Yu, have returned." Chapter 48. When Sima Yu returned to the general's residence, The guard that saw the familiar silhouette immediately cried out in surprise, "Fifth young master, you've returned." Sima Yu indifferently nodded at them, saying, "Yes, I've returned. Where's grandfather?" "The general has just returned," the guard replied. "I will notify them immediately." After saying this, that person sprinted inside, shouting while running, "Fifth young master has returned. Fifth young master has returned." Sima Yu watched that guy running and yelling around in such an amusing manner and shook her head, as she had on light smile and headed inside. "Yu has returned? Where? Fifth brother has returned? That guy has finally come back. Fifth young master has finally returned." When Sima Yu had just passed through the front courtyard, she was blocked by a pair of broad shoulders, and she was immediately pulled into a warm embrace. Grandfather, smelling that familiar scent. Sima Yu snuggled deeply into that embrace. "You've finally decided to return." Sima Lai hugged Sima Yu tightly. His voice was choked with emotion. "Grandfather, I'm well and fine." Sima Yu patted Sima Lai's back and comforted him. "Fifth brother, you've finally returned. If you had dragged it on any longer, the few of us were planning to go and look for you." Sima Yu ran, and the rest of them had also ran into the courtyard and saw Sima Yu, who had peeked out from Sima Lai's embrace. "Grandfather is really biased. He has never hugged us like this before." Sima Yu whined, "If you went missing for a few months, I would also hug the few of you." Sima Lai roared at Sima Yu, "Fifth brother, where have you been these past few months? You really worried us to death." Sima Yu walked over. Seeing that Sima Yu was safe and sound, his anxious heart gradually calmed down. "That's right. Why did you go to the fourth teleportation array and was even sent to some unknown location?" Sima Yuming asked. "This is a long story. Let's head inside first before talking." Sima Yu said, "Okay." They walked into the hall and Sima Yu began to tell of her experiences after she sat down back. After listening to the beginning of Sima Yu's story, Sima Lai slapped the table. Raging, "There's actually a person who dares to harm you. I was just asking myself why you would enter that fourth teleportation array, so it was actually someone that pushed you in." Sima Yu said, "We will go to the academy tomorrow and drag that person out to let him know that there are some people in this world that you cannot offend." Cool down a bit, you all should not get so worked up." Sima Yu saw that each and every single one of them looked like they were preparing for battle and helplessly rolled her eyes. "Do you all want to continue listening to my story?" "Fifth brother, continue speaking. Where did you get sent to?" "Pu Luo Mountain Range," Sima Yu answered. "What? You had actually been sent to Pu Luo Mountain Range? Then how come you're not injured or anything? You all should relax. I'm very healthy," Sima Yu said with a smile, in order to prove that she was fine. She even stood up and moved a bit. "Pu Luo Mountain Range has so many spirit beasts. Most spirit masters won't dare to venture in on their own. You didn't encounter any dangerous situation, right?" Sima Yu asked with worry. "Fifth brother, if you have any injuries, you definitely have to tell us." Sima Yuran looked at Sima Yu and was worried that she was hiding something from them. Even they did not dare to lightly enter Pu Luo Mountain Range, to say nothing of Sima Yu, who had just started cultivating as a spirit master. "I'm really okay," Sima Yu emphasized once again, seeing how they didn't believe her. She could only call Yaguang out for them. When Yaguang came out, his saint-ranked power pressure filled the entire hall master. Yaguang shrunk himself and came to Sima Yu's side. "This is the beast that I made a contract with when I was at Pu Luo Mountain Range. It's a saint-ranked beast. Whenever I encountered any dangerous situation, it came to save me." In the face of their disbelief, Sima Yu could only give all the credit to Yaguang. Yaguang looked at Sima Yu every single time. She made it stay on the sidelines. It felt like he hadn't even done anything. Faced with Sima Yu's threatening gaze, it could only lower its head silently. "This saint-ranked beast has not been tamed. How did you form a contract with it?" Sima Lai looked at Yaguang, his eyes filled with puzzlement mixed with amazement. "When I first met it, it just happened to be injured by another spirit beast. It had escaped and collapsed by the river after that. I rescued it, and it took the initiative to make me its master." Sima Yu lied with a steady heart. without a hint of blush or remorse. What do you mean she saved Yu Guang? It was clear that the one she saved was Wu Lingyu. However, this is the manner in which she told the story, and so this is what they heard. After all, explaining the story in this way still sounded very reasonable. That's right, I also saved a person on Puluo mountain range. After that, he gave me 2 pills as thanks. At that time, I really wanted to give it to grandfather. Sima Yu took out 2 jade bottles, and these bottles contained the rank advancement pills. She put the pills on Sima Lai's desk and then returned back to her place. What kind of pills are these? When Sima Yulu saw the pills in the jade bottle, he was excited for a moment, so he asked curiously, "These pills will help him to advance in rank." Sima Yu said, "Grandfather has been stuck at this bottleneck for such a long time. With these pills, grandfather should be able to increase in rank really." The other 4 brothers became extremely excited when they heard this. "Grandfather, are these really rank advancement pills?" Sima Yuran asked. Sima Lai nodded his head. His eyes were moist. These rank advancement pills have been lost for a long time. He didn't know kind of person Sima Yu had saved on the mountain that he would actually possess these kinds of pills. This is too fantastic. Sima Yuran brandished his fan. If grandfather manages to increase in rank, we will no longer have to worry about the Nailin clan coming over to look for trouble. What's up with the Nailin clan? Sima Yu asked. Did something happen these 4 months when I wasn't around? Actually, it's not really a situation, Sima Yuran explained. It's just that the ancestor of the Nailin family has recently advanced in rank to become a spirit paragon. The same rank as grandfather. This Nailin family has always come to compete with us. But because their strength was not on par with grandfather's, so they still held back a bit. However, since their ancestor had risen in rank, they became extremely unbridled. Sooner or later, their butts were going to start sticking up in the air. Right now, as long as grandfather can rise in rank, he will be able to pressure them one again. We'll see whether or not they will be able to remain as arrogant as before. Sima Yulu said. Nailin clan. Sima Yu stretched out her hand and touched her chin, eyes shining with a strange light. Since we have the pill, grandfather should quickly go rise in rank. Sima Yu Chi said, "That's true. Tomorrow, I will head to the Imperial Palace to look for His Majesty to request for an absence of leave. After that, I will quickly come home and go into closed-door cultivation." Sima Lai said, "In this period of time, you all must be careful of any movement from the Nailin clan. We will. Grandfather, please go into your closed-door cultivation in peace." Sima Yuran said. "Fifth brother, now that you've returned, do you still want to go back to the academy?" Sima Yulu asked. "That master of yours, Feng Zhixing, has constantly been worrying about you. Every few days, he will come over to ask about your situation, Master Feng." Sima Yu never thought that he would actually care so much about her. She thought about it and said, "I will wait for grandfather to finish his closed-door cultivation before returning back to the academy. I still have some things that I want to do at home. Then tell me who is the person who hurt you. I will go and take revenge for you on your behalf." Sima Yulu declared, "No need. If I want to feel any joy, it definitely has to be me to take revenge on my own enemies. You all don't have to worry about this." Sima Yu said, "When I return back to the academy, I will slowly play with her." Chapter 49. The next day, Feng Zhixing came once again to the general's residence and wanted to meet Sima Lai to inquire on Sima Yu's jade condition. However, he was momentarily been stunned in place when Sima Yu appeared in the hall to greet him instead of Sima Lai. "Master Feng, please sit." Sima Yu smiled as she gestured with her hand, saying, "Grandfather is currently busy and my few brothers are also busy settling some things, so today I will be the one to receive you. When did you come back?" Feng Zhixing quickly collected himself as he came to the chair and sat down in a daze, looking at Sima Yu from head to toe, making sure that she was all right. Sima Yu sat opposite him and patiently replied, "I just came back last night." "Where have you been this entire time?" Feng Zhixing absent-mindedly received a cup of tea served by the maid and lifted the cover but did not proceed on to drink. "That teleportation array sent me to a mountain range very far away. After that, because of a few things, I was delayed for a period of time." Sima Yu smiled as she said, "I heard that Master Feng was very worried about me. I am touched by your concern. Since you've managed to return safely, all is well." Only after he heard Sima Yu's reply and ascertained that she was all right did he let out a small sigh of relief and drank a mouthful of tea. After that, he placed the teacup back on the table and asked, "So when do you think you want to come back to the academy?" There are some matters that I need to tend to first, and I may need a couple of days to settle them. Can I request for a leave of absence for a few days? Sima Yu asked. Of course you can. I imagine that you've suffered quite a bit during the time that you were outside. You should rest at home properly for a while. Feng Zhixing speedily replied. Many thanks to Master Feng, Sima Yu said. Oh right. I beseech Master Feng to help me keep the fact that I have returned a secret. Her lips curved up at the ends. All right. Feng Zhixing nodded his head, saying, since you have returned safely, I will head back to the academy first. Whenever you want to tell me about the things that have happened to you during this period of time, then tell me. After he finished speaking, he got up from his seat and left. Sima Yu looked at Feng Zhixing's back and had some questions in her heart. However, she knew that if she were to go and ask him those questions now, he would not tell her the answers. After Feng Zhixing left the general's residence, he turned around and looked at it, muttering, she's finally back. She's even much stronger than she was before. She must have met with a fortuitous encounter. Master, this is great. You don't have to worry anymore. A voice inside his head sounded. Yep, no need to worry anymore. He broke into a smile. Sima Yu waited for Sima Lai to come back and personally sent him to a hidden room. Only after seeing the door to the hidden room close safely did she turn around and leave, returning to her own courtyard. Young master, Sima Yu glanced at her two maids. Yesterday when they had seen that she had returned, both of them were incomparably excited. It was unexpected that they were no longer as afraid of her as they were in the past. I want to stay in the room to cultivate. If there is nothing, please do not come and disturb me, Sima Yu instructed. Because she had once used her interspatial ring in front of them, they already knew about the fact that she could cultivate. Furthermore, they had sworn their loyalty to her, so she had no desire to keep it from them. After all, they were her own people. It would be far more convenient if they knew about all her future plans. Yes, Sima Yu went back to her own room and locked herself in. After that, she entered the spirit pearl. Little spirit, she called out. What? Little spirit appeared in midair. Where is the spirit stone from that time? Sima Yu wanted to have a look at the stone that little spirit had found, as she wanted to study it a bit to see whether or not it was of any benefit to her soul. I actually thought that you had no interest towards this thing. After he said that, a jet black stone appeared in front of them. Sima Yu held the spirit stone in her palm and said, this was the thing that caused us to be stuck in that illusion array for such a long time? That's right. Little spirit nodded his head. Then does this thing bring any benefit to my soul? Sima Yu asked. It could at first, but not anymore, Little Spirit said. Why? Because a spirit has already gone on ahead to live inside, Little Spirit said. A spirit is living inside it? Sima Yu lifted the spirit stone high up, squinting her eyes to stare at it for a long while, but did not notice anything special about it. You're really stupid. I already told you that there's a spirit living inside. How could you possibly see anything like this? Little Spirit was exasperated and cast her a contemptuous glance. Then how did you know that a spirit lives inside it? Sima Yu asked puzzledly. I am the sovereign of spirit stones. I was born with an innate capability to sensing spirits. Of course I would know that a spirit lives inside the stone. Little Spirit said. Fine then. Sima Yu held the spirit stone in her hand and said, so you're saying that it's first come, first served, so I can't use this anymore, something like that? Little Spirit replied. However, forming a contract with me couldn't even fully restore your soul, so one or two of these spirit stones wouldn't help you much either way. So what kind of spirit lives within? Sima Yu swung that stone, wanting to fling that spirit awake. How would I know? He hasn't come out ever since he went in. Little Spirit used both hands to hug in front of its chest, inadvertently rolling its eyes when it saw what Sima Yu was doing. Hey, the person inside, if you're awake then come and show your face outside. Sima Yu shouted at the spirit stone. No reply. If you don't come out, I'll throw you. Still no reply. Fine then. Sima Yu put the stone on the ground and called Ling Long out. Master, did you call Ling Long out because you miss Ling Long? Ling Long said with emotion as she appeared. I want you to change into a weapon. Sima Yu said. What kind of weapon? Hammer. Ling Long pouted as she transformed into a hammer. After a short moment, a hammer appeared in Sima Yu's hands. Seeing herself turn into something so ugly, Ling Long's heart was anguished. Did this girl really know about weapons? Why did she always make her turn into this kind of brute weapons? Sima Yu tapped on the spirit stone with her hammer, saying, if you refuse to come out, I will break the stone to pieces. I'll see whether you can still remain inside. After saying this, she lifted the hammer hair in the air. Just as she was about to beat down on it, a voice chided, stay your hand. Oh my, willing to talk now? Sima Yu heard that voice and gave two evil laughs, saying, your voice really is a bit scary, but this lord doesn't get scared easily. I'll count to 3. If you still don't come out, I will break it into pieces. 1, 2, 3. Just as she was about to go through with it, a red-colored mist stopped her from moving. After that, the mist turned into a faint image of a person. He had handsome features, a slender body, and he looked to be about 20 over years old. His hair and clothes were fiery red, even his pupils were red. He really looked like an evildoer. My goodness, what kind of person is this? He looks just like a fireball. Sima Yu had been scared by the person who had just appeared in front of her. Ignorant human, you have a lot of guts. That red silhouette looked at Sima Yu and his body gave off an aura that was both grand and oppressive. Chapter 50. What piercing eyes! Being stared at by that man, Sima Yu felt as if she had been frozen. The aura coming from his body was stronger than Wu Lingyu, who had recovered his strength by who knows how many times. Sima Yu calmed her heart, took the hammer and knocked on the spirit stone, saying, I have had a lot of guts since I was born, but according to what you said just now, you're not a human. Humph, I am from the noble devil clan. How could I be compared to you low-class humans? That man said, Devil clan? Sima Yu picked up the spirit stone and stood up, sizing him up, saying, looking at your ambiguous appearance, you don't look like a human at all. I didn't that you were actually from the devil clan. However, why would someone from the devil clan end up living here, even wandering over to this place? Humph. Listening to the mockery behind Sima Yu's word, the man immediately turned his head to the side. What is your name? Sima Yu asked. He ignored her. I can't call you He forever, right? Or else I would be treating you like a cat or dog, Sima Yu said. The man pouted, saying, Emo Sha as expected, it's a devil's name. Sima Yu said, that time was it you who set up that illusion array? Silence, there was no way of confirming it with him. Looks like it was, Sima Yu said, a person like me has many plans for revenge towards someone like you who has locked me inside that illusion array for such a long time. How do you think I will settle this grievance? While speaking, she used her hammer to knock lightly against the spirit stone in her hand. Emo Sha looked at what Sima Yu was doing and his gaze turned dark. He suppressed his anger and said, how do you want to settle it? The fact that you are in charge of this little stone shows that you are stronger than the average person. Shouldn't you give me some benefits? Sima Yu said lazily. Emo Sha looked at Sima Yu for a long time. His gaze also slowly started to clear. After a little longer, he opened his mouth to speak. You want some benefits? This isn't impossible, but you have to promise me one thing. What? Sima Yu asked. Before I find my physical body, I want to stay here. Emo Sha said, this is no problem. Sima Yu nodded. The spirit pearl was so big, it would be no problem no matter how many stones of this kind were placed inside. I haven't finished, Emo Sha said. Then you should continue. Sima Yu touched her chin as she watched him while she pondered about what kind of benefits he would be able to bring to her. You have to help me find my physical body. Emo Sha said indistinctly, you wish. Sima Yu could not help but cry out when she heard it, saying, the heavens and the earth are vast. Where would I go to find your physical body? I don't even know how to go to your devil realm. My physical body may not necessarily be in the devil realm, Emo Sha said. Why? Sima Yu asked. At that time, when my soul was forcibly separated, half of it entered this place while another half has probably reincarnated. Emo Sha said, however, my reincarnation may not necessarily be from the devil race. Then wouldn't I be even more at a loss of where I should go to find it? Sima Yu said, even if you cannot find it, you still have to try. If I help you do things, it's obvious that you have to repay me sufficiently. Emo Sha said, first tell me what the benefit is, see whether it's capable of enticing me to agree to your demands. Sima Yu's eyes were spinning as she said, Imperial Art of Beast Taming. Emo Sha said indifferently, Imperial Art of Beast Taming? Little Spirit was at a corner when he shouted out, that's a really good thing, Master, you must quickly agree. It's just the Imperial Art of Beast Taming. Although beast tamers are rare, there's no need for me to know this thing before I can become a beast tamer. Since I have to do so many things in return, it's not worth it. Sima Yu shook her head as she said. The Imperial Art of Beast Taming is something from the ancient times. Emo Sha said, from the ancient times? Sima Yu narrowed her eyes at Emo Sha, saying, so what? Are you stupid? The beast tamers right now all use such simplistic methods. They only know how to tame the beasts. The Imperial Art of Beast Taming is more powerful than those methods by more than 100 times. Little Spirit pulled Sima Yu to a side, saying, my XXX master had spent his entire life searching for the Imperial Art of Beast Taming. but until he died, he never managed to find it. Is it really that great? Sima Yu could not believe it. Of course it's great, Little Spirit affirmed. The most important thing is, this imperial art of beast taming has been lost for a long time and is completely impossible to find right now. Emo Sha looked at Sima Yu and Little Spirit muttering to each other at the same and knitted his eyebrows together, saying, "Quickly make your decision." "Fine then." Sima Yu hugged Little Spirit and massaged him twice, saying, "Let's do it according to what you've said. The deal is complete." "Good." He had barely finished speaking when he floated in front of Sima Yu, giving her a kiss on the lips when she was off guard. "What are you doing?" Although there was no physical feeling, Sima Yu still retreated a step back, glaring at Emo Sha, sealing the deal. Emo Sha said, "This is the way we do it in our devil clan." "Then there's no need for you to do this," Sima Yu said with a black face. "I'm just a spirit right now. This is the only thing I can do," Emo Sha said. Sima Yu had rage that she could not release and could only forcefully wipe her lips, causing her lips to become even redder. "What about that imperial art of beast taming that you talked about?" She glared daggers at Emo Sha as she asked. Emo Sha looked over at her red lips and entered the spirit stone, saying, "Put this spirit stone on your forehead." Sima Yu did what he said. When the spirit stone came into contact with her forehead, she felt that something had entered into her brain, causing it to hurt. It was only after a long while that she recovered. "This jerk must have done it on purpose," she said, as she held her forehead. "Master, quickly try out that imperial art of beast taming." Little Spirit said. Sima Yu closed her eyes. She only felt that her brain contained some information that she never had before. Her brain was currently appeared to contain a book, and on its cover the words "Imperial Art of Beast Taming" were inscribed in gold. When she had organized that information, she realized that this information was definitely of a higher quality. The most impressive thing was that the spirit beast that used the imperial art of beast taming, when he had formed a contract with its owner, it could increase its own strength further. In the future, when the owner had increased in rank, the spirit beast would also increase in rank. Damn, it can actually increase in rank. This is something I've never heard of before. Sima Yu called out after she had finished reading it. This art of beast taming is very simple. It uses the same method as other methods of beast taming, but because taming a spirit beast required a lot of spirit energy, so only when she had increased her own spirit energy would she be able to tame higher ranked spirit beasts. "We should try catching a spirit beast with this," Sima Yu said happily. "Don't forget about our agreement," Emo Sha said from the spirit stone. "I know." Sima Yu frowned, saying, "You have this kind of ancient thing and you could even live within this small spirit stone for so many years. You must have been a very powerful person in the past. Why don't you tell me what your identity was? It'll be easier for me to look for your you based on your identity and status. When I meet him, I will be drawn towards him. I will naturally tell you when that time comes." After saying this, he refused to say anything more. The spirit stone also stopped shining. Tiske. Sima Yu threw the spirit stone over to Little Spirit, saying, "Help me keep this safe." Little Spirit wished it away, and the spirit stone disappeared in front of them.